Hello friends, welcome to Universe of Naruto. If you love Naruto What If stories and anime explanations, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin today's story. The names rolled one after another on the large screen looking over the rather plain room where the preliminaries of the Chunin exams were being held. The names stopped. Kabana in Asuka vs Naruto Uzumaki. Alright, you hear that, Akamaru. We got an easy match. Ka shouted as she leapt out onto the battlefield. Akamaru landing down beside her with a mighty rough. Ka couldn't help but smile as she watched Nar nearly fall down onto the arena floor. He completely lacked grace and looked like he had a rough time in the forest. Kabana Nar couldn't help but smile at the ridiculous name. What kind of name is that? Nar broke out into a rich belly laugh at Ka's rather unfortunate name. Ka felt her face grow red at the comment and stomped her feet. Shut up, Ka barked, letting out a deep growl. My mom sucks at naming things. Ka glared hard at Nar. At least he wasn't afraid of her the same way the other guys were. Shame he was so attracted to that soccer girl. My name's Ka. Got it. Ka. But it says Kabana. Nar pointed towards the screen, his large toothy smile beaming like a second sun. That sounds like a girl's name. Ka narrowed her eyes, fists at her sides as she felt her cheeks begin to heat up. Nar, do you think I'm a boy? Well, duh, you're just one of the guys. That stupid smile would not leave his face. You, me, Shikamaru, and Shoji always ran around getting in trouble. Oh, that explains so much. I'm a girl, you idiot. No way. That shout didn't come from Nar, though. The look on Naruto's face indicated that's what he was thinking. It came from Sakura, who was looking around to see if anybody else thought it was odd. The Inuzuka have no male heir, Sakura, Kakashi said blandly. His one eye showed how amused he was to watch Naruto's plight. Though I'm surprised both you and Nar were unaware. Sakura had the good grace to shut up and simply blush. Well, whatever, Nar finally said after getting over his shock. It doesn't matter if you're a girl. There's still no way I'm going to lose. Do you believe it? No, you're not getting off that easy, Nar. Ka barked at him. Her face was red with rage and her fists were shaking out of anger. 4x weeks had passed since her humiliating defeat at the hands of Nar and Ka was still flustered about it. It wasn't that she lost. It was that Nar thought she was a boy. It was also that Nar didn't treat her like a girl. He treated her like Ka. Even after the match, Nar didn't change attitude towards her. Ka buried her face into one of the large pillows on her bed and pulled on her slightly damp hair. The worst part was that she could still smell him. Not the smell of his fart. That nasty smell had been purged from her nose quickly. But the sheer smell of Nar remained. She smelt him everywhere, and that meant Nar was constantly on her mind. Nar, that annoying hyperactive munchkin doofus that thought she was a boy. Sure, Ka might have hung out with the boys in her academy days. Sure, she never fawned over Sasaki like the other girls. Sure, she never actually told Nar that she was a girl. Gao. Heya screamed again into her pillow her once again. Why the hell did it matter to her what that annoying loser Naruto thought of her anyways? Sure, he was technically stronger than her. Sure, Nar technically beat her, but she was still going to be Hokage. Damn it, and she was going to make Naruto pay. Okay, that's 2 screams into the pillow. Ka turned to glare at her older sister Hana as the know-it-all older sibling walked into the room. What's got you so worked up, squirt? Hana nudged the concerned Akamaru to the side as she sat down right next to Ka. Ka glared at her sister for a moment of blush slowly creeping down from her ears. Hana returned the glare with one of her own. Sighing in defeat, Ka decided to let her sister know. Nar, Ka said quickly as she turned away from her sister's gaze, focusing instead on Akamaru, who had moved over to lick her hands. What? Still got his fart stuck in your nose? Hana said with a sharp, noisy laugh at her little sister's expense. And Inuzuka had never once been defeated by a fart before. Her mother told Ka that thanks to her enemy, Ninja will now know of this weakness and try to exploit it by eating large amounts of beans. Not his fart, Ka said lamely. I can't walk through Konoha without noticing his scent. Ka kicked her bed with her feet in frustration. I can't ignore it either. What's it smell like? Hana asked, curiosity and amusement, lacing her voice thickly. Ka didn't trust the all-too-knowing smile on her sister's face. She didn't trust it at all. What it smell like? Ka shot up, twisting her body so that she was directly facing her sister. It smells like Nar. That was the simplest answer and most trustful Ka could come up with. It smells like hard work, sweat, ramen, leaves, sunshine, and really cheap deodorant. But there's more to it than that. I can't put my finger on it. Ka spat out rapid-fire things about what Naruto smelled like, avoiding the obvious smell of strength that reminded her of her father. That was one of the more prominent traits in Naruto's scent. Wow, Hana said, laughing again. KBA growled at the laugh. No matter how helpful Hana was at times, the teasing was rarely worth it. Stupid older sisters. Well, do you hate the smell? That caught Ka off guard as her face twisted into one of confusion. It wasn't that Naruto's scent was bad. Ka actually thought it was an alright smell in that she didn't really mind smelling it when she went out into Takonoha. She just didn't like that it made her think of Naruto. It's not bad, Ka said meekly. Hana giggled as she had a mental image of Ka with dog ears saying that while the ears drooped. Sounds like you have a crush. No way, Ka shouted quickly, standing up on her bed. The simple thought of having a crush on Nar was too much to handle and she just had to move so that it didn't get comfortable in her head, shaking her head back and forth quickly. There is no way I can like that idiot loser. Why not? Hana asked curiously. Because he thought I was a guy up until a week ago. Heya attempted to defend herself and he only found out I was a girl because he was laughing at my name. Those sound like reasons for him not to like you, Hana said, swiping at her sister's feet to force her back down onto the bed. Heya fell to the bed with an undignified gasp. Akamaru bravely rose to her defense by at Hana's hand. Watch it, pup, he's stupid. Ka growled from her now prone position. He's the dead last and an idiot. He's weak. He beat you, Hana interjected. But Ka continued her rant. He's short. He only eats ramen. He's stupid. Hinata already has a crush on him. He likes that soccer a girl, so he obviously has crappy taste in women. Ka let out a long huff out of her nose. And he's a pervert. Ka finished by shooting both of her arms straight up into the air. Okay, sheesh. Hana got up from Ka's bed and made her way out of the room. She stopped at the door frame. You know, often when girls your age have opinions like that, they actually have a crush on the boy. Hana ran out the door as a pillow flew towards her head. What do you think, Akamaru? Ka asked her companion who just yipped at her. She understood exactly what that yip meant. Akamaru was teasing her that she liked Nar. What the hell do you know? You're a dog, Ka growled. Akamaru yipped again. Whatever. Let's just head out. Ka suddenly grew very tired of looking at her room. She didn't have to train with Shino today. Shino was doing most of it with his clan anyways. And with Hinata still in the hospital, Ka had almost nothing better to do but train, wallow in self-pity, and be endlessly frustrated by Nar. 4x. Walking into Konoha proper proved to be a mistake. It was like Nar rubbed his scent on every single street corner. The very air was thick with Naruto's scent. It had always been, Ka realized as she stomped through one of the many streets of Konoha with Akamaru right behind her. Naruto's scent had always been in and around Konoha, but now she couldn't stop noticing it everywhere. Once she recognized his scent, there was just no escaping it. Ikyaku Ramen Nar Academy Nar Mission Table Nar Random Apartment Nar Red Bridge Nar Sakura Strawberry Shampoo and then Nar Bathhouse Nar Ka was at Nar where everything smelled like Nar. It was everywhere. Ga! Ka shouted in the middle of the street before running off in a random direction. She needed desperately to escape Naruto's scent. She needed him out of her head more than anything. Ignoring the whines of Akamaru at her sudden movement, Ka bolted out into the thicker forests that surrounded Konoha. Why is he stuck in my head? Ka asked herself as she rested her against the rough bark of a tree. Akamaru yipped and barked at her. I don't have a crush on Nar. Ka snapped at the poor dog. There's no way I could do that to Hinata. Ka admitted as she continued to bury her head into the rough tree bark. Ka almost wanted to cry. Even out here in the middle of nowhere, she could still smell Nar. She could practically hear him. Akamaru yipped and growled at her, pulling on her pant leg to get Ka's attention. What is it? Ka's disgruntled voice was barely a whisper as she turned her attention to Akamaru. Akamaru barked and then turned around, acting like a pointer. Ka followed it and felt her heart sink. Somehow, without even thinking about it, she had followed Naruto's scent. Right to him. Just across the wide river bend in a rather nice-looking swimming hole was Nar. The wind blew towards Ka and she felt her knees buckle. It was getting worse. Her cheeks flared red as the raw smell of Nar filtered into her nose. Ka wanted to scream. She hated the fact that she was liking the smell. She hated the fact that it was Nar that was causing this. She hated the fact that Hinata was her friend. She hated the fact that she wanted to just talk to Naruto right then and there. She hated the fact that she didn't know what was even going on. Watching Nar train without a care in the world, Ka couldn't help but think that life would be so much easier if she was actually a boy. Ka simply stood half concealed by the trees and foliage as she watched Naruto train. A large man with a lot of spiky white hair sat nearby, laughing more often than he was giving instructions. The laughter seemed to be proving more effective than the actual instructions in getting Nar to actually train. All Nar was really doing was making toads appear over and over again. Most of them were tadpoles no bigger than Naruto's hand. Why is he wasting time with those weak things? Ha asked nobody in particular. She hadn't realized that she was sitting down until Akamaru curled up in her lap, deciding that a late afternoon nap was a good idea. How on earth is he planning on beating a guy like Neji like that? It was then that Naruto froze and suddenly looked right at Ka. Ka froze as well. Hey Ka, Nar shouted at the girl he used to think was a boy. Like a deer being caught by a wolf, Ka bolted away in a mad scramble. Hey Ka, wait, Nar shouted from behind her. Ka's face was red now. Very red. Her breathing was ragged and her heart was beating in her ears. So this was what it felt like to die from embarrassment. Nar had caught her practically stalking him. Naruto is going to think that she likes him now. Naruto is going to get the wrong idea about everything. It was just dumb luck that she stumbled upon Nar, and it was just curiosity that made her stay and watch as Nar training. Right. Ka tripped too flustered by the fact that Nar was actually chasing behind her to fully pay attention to where she was going. Kiba's foot caught under a root, sending her flying towards the ground rather quickly and sending Akamaru flying through the air and off the cliff face. Akamaru. Kiba saw Akamaru plummeting to his death. Even a ninja dog wouldn't be able to survive a fall from the height she had practically thrown her companion, her best friend, to his death. She struggled against the wicked root that was wrapped around her ankle. I got him. Ka twisted to watch Nar leap off the cliff. With no sense of self-preservation, he caught Akamaru midair in a rough somersault. Nar, Ka shouted as she pulled her ankle out of the root, rolling the fragile joint. They were both going to die now. Nar and Akamaru were both going to die now because she tripped on a root. You okay, Akamaru? Nar asked as he looked at the dog tucked into his arms. Akamaru wed and gave a yelp. Naruto had no idea what the dog was saying. Well, whatever. Let's hope this works. Akamaru held on for dear life as Nar began going through the hand signs once again. Something big. Nar shouted as he shot his hand downward, summoning jutsu from the ground to where Nar was falling filled with smoke. Nar crashed down upon the slick blue surface of the beast he summoned. Gyro Gamahiro asked as he looked around. Jiraiya-san, the toad questioned as he began searching its head for its summoner. With a ginger pluck, the massive toad brought Nar down before him. You're not Jiraiya. Much too short. I'm not short. Nar shouted as he kicked his legs while dangling in front of the massive toad. And my name's Nar. Got it. Nar Uzumaki. Akamaru barked in agreement. The massive blue toad's eyes went wide at the noise. Ah, a dog. Gamero squealed in a pitch unbefitting its massive size. Naruto's jacket was torn from his body as he found himself being thrown through the air as the toad flailed its arms around before vanishing in smoke. I got you, boy. Nar called as he caught Akamaru for the second time that day. Nar managed to slam hard into the top of the cliff, knocking the wind out of him, but delivering Akamaru to safety. The pup returned the favor by biting onto Naruto's sleeves to try and pull him up the cliff. Ka limped over to Naruto with her ankle twisted into a painful degree. She grabbed onto Naruto's arm before the blonde could pull himself up. Thanks, Ka said sharply as she scooped up Akamaru into her hands. But this is all your fault, you idiot. Ka's harsh tone caused Akamaru to whine and whimper in her arms. Akamaru was on Naruto's side to now. Just great. What? Nar spat out as he dusted himself off. How's it my fault? You're the one that ran away from me. Because you were chasing me, spat back, giving Naruto a sharp glare of her own. Only because you started to run away. Naruto huffed as he put his hands into his pockets. Whatever. I need to get back to training before Kirby Sage runs off again. He was already missing his jacket. Heya frowned at Nar and at herself. She might have gone too far with that. Attempting to step out of Naruto's way proved to be a mistake as she temporarily forgot about her ankle. Ka winced and drew in a sharp intake of air. It was a good thing she didn't have any missions for a while. Let me help you back. Okay. Naruto sighed. He didn't even wait for her to answer, bringing Broad her arm around his shoulder. For once, him being short was proving to be a good thing. What about training? Not being directly opposed to not walking on a sprained ankle. Ka didn't openly protest Naruto's help. She felt a lot of sudden urges then as she was once again being held by Nar. Why on earth was Nar making her feel like her stomach was doing fang over fang with her heart? The pervy sage was about to call it quits for the day. Besides, Nar said excitedly, nearly bouncing on his heels. Did you see how big that toad was? It was huge. Akamaru yipped from the ground before growling. Right. And he was afraid of Akamaru, too. Ka had to suppress a giggle. She failed and the giggle bubbled over. So, is that how you plan on beating Neji? Ka wasn't even thinking at the moment. That meant she wasn't thinking about Naruto or his stupid smell. And the less she thought, the better things would be. What? Nar asked as though he was insulted. No way. I'm going to beat Neji without my summons. Believe it. Ha stared at Naruto for a moment before smiling. I know from experience it's a bad idea to underestimate you, Nar, Ka said, allowing herself to smile for once. The mood was spoiled by Naruto's stomach speaking up, apparently trying to take credit for Naruto's victory over Ka, which was true in that stomach of yours. Nar suddenly shouted as he quickly became depressed. I lost my jacket. I had coupons for ramen in there. Sighing in defeat, Nar had to wipe away a single tear. Oh well, they expired today anyways. Akamaru yipped happily as he followed behind Ka and Naruto through the thick Konoha forest. So why? You chase after me anyways? Ka asked suddenly, not wanting to deal with the thoughts silence brought. Oh, I wanted to see if you would get ramen with me. Those words had a profound effect on Ka. Was Nar going to ask her out on a date? Did Nar always like her but didn't act on it because he thought she was a boy? Why was her heart racing? Why did she not entirely hate the simple idea of going on a date with Nar? Why did she want to prove to him that she was a girl? Why was she good friends with Hinata as an apology for thinking you were a guy and you know other stuff? Naruto's own face wrinkled as he sucked on his bottom lip. But you don't have to if you don't want to. I understand if you don't like me right now. Yay. Well, Ka half mumbled to herself as they made it to the main road of Konoha. I'll treat you to ramen tomorrow, Ka said suddenly. Not that I want or anything. Just as a thank you for saving Akamaru and helping me home. You don't have to if you, Nar began with a frown, but was quickly cut off by idiot. Ka spat. I said I'll treat you to ramen tomorrow. So, I'm going to treat you to ramen tomorrow. Got it. Ka's ears were red now and she was once again thankful for her large hoodie covering much of her face. Got it. Nar said, snapping his mouth shut. Good. He was learning. Good. Ka said, smirking for a moment before she realized exactly what she did. Shikabana Inuka had just asked Naruto Uzumaki out on a date. What was she thinking? What was she going to wear? What was she going to tell Hinata? How much ramen could Nar eat? What did you even do on a date? She could practically hear Akamaru snickering at her. She could already feel Hana's teasing and her mother's amused smirk. Ka hated that smirk. It was an, oh, so close to actually winning, kind of smile. Well, anyways, I think my ankle got better, so I'll meet you at Ikyaku's at noon tomorrow. Okay, bye. Ka quickly sputtered out as she ignored the pain in her foot too quickly. And don't be late, idiot. Girls are weird, Nar said, looking to Akamaru, who tilted his head in confusion before yelping agreeably at Nar and bolting off after Ka. But hey, free ramen. Ka was not a girly girl. She was probably the very definition of a tomboy, which is why her clothing selection wasn't well suited for dates. Girls wore dresses on dates. After all, at least that's what Ka thought. She had never actually been on a date before, which is why for the first time in her life, Ka was experiencing a female freakout over her clothing. No, Ka shouted, throwing yet another shirt onto her bed. She let out a disgusted grunt and threw another shirt. Ka examined a particularly old shirt for a moment. It would almost work. Does this even fit me anymore? Akamaru barked and wet as yet another shirt flew on top of him. He remained seated in place, shrugging the shirt off to the side. What? Heya shrieked at her companion, her face slowly growing redder. Akamaru barked and wed in the same way once again, as though he was repeating himself. No, I don't care what you would do. I'm not going to let Naruto smell my Akamaru barked. Heia's face grew even redder. That's different. Heya bit back. That was during a fight, and that is not why I like him. HBA paused as she realized exactly what she said. No, I don't like Nar. I absolutely do not like him. She felt like pulling out her hair. She was just going out on a date with Nar because he had saved Akamaru and helped her back to the village. Nothing more. It had absolutely nothing to do with Naruto's scent becoming a pleasant obsession to Ka or how nice he was. There was just absolutely no way that Ka could have a crush on Nar. Sure, he was nice, strong, wasn't that bad looking, and smelled absolutely amazing, but there was just no way that Ka could do that to Hinata. It was just a friendly date that Ka was freaking out about looking nice for. Now, what's got your panties in a twist, squirt? A jolt of shock shot through Ka's spine as Hana poked her head through the doorway. Hana eyed the complete and utter chaos of Ka's room. It was only slightly more chaotic than normal with Kiba's entire wardrobe on the bed. I have a date, Ka said as she threw another shirt on the bed. The majority of them were dull grays and browns and completely covered in dog fur. Ka realized she said too much when Hana's head vanished from sight, though her hands could still be seen on the inside of Ka's door frame. Moon! Hana yelled, and Ka instantly broke out into a cold sweat. She would be attending Naruto's funeral soon enough. Kabana has a boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend. Ka's protests were muted by what sounded like a hurricane suddenly blasting through their house. Dishes crashed, glasses cracked, and the very house itself shook as some Inuzuka went on the warpath. There was a squeal as Hana dodged out of the way of their mother. And Ka suddenly found herself staring down at the feral eyes of her wild mother. Sung was currently wearing a pink slightly frilly apron and smelled like dish soap. She was wild, but nobody could say she wasn't a great mother. Who? Sung asked, clasping Ka's shoulders as she stared at her daughter with wild eyes. Soon was naturally protective. She enjoyed scaring boys away from her daughters, and this one was exciting. It was the first boy going after her youngest. The smell of fresh meat was in the air. He's not my boyfriend. Ka tried to defend, really not liking the crazy look in her mother's eyes. Ka loved her mother dearly, but she knew that her father left because of the raw intensity Soon showed. Wu soon came close to growling at the end of it. She needed to know who was seeking her daughter's heart. She needed to make sure they were worthy, to make sure the Inuzuka clan would be made stronger by them. This was their way. Soon tightened her grip on her daughter's shoulders. Ka squeaked out instantly. Sung's grip lessened from uncomfortable to gentle as she blinked in confusion then recognition. Soon repeated Uzumaki. She watched as Ka's head bobbed once for confirmation. Blonde hair, blue eyes. Soon mused as she watched her daughter's head bob twice, once for each question. Well, all right then. Sung stood up, leaving her daughters in shock. Truth be told, she might have been one of the few people to know Kusha as a person. She liked it when girls weren't afraid to beat the tar out of guys. It had led to something of a rivalry and friendship between the two in their youth. Such a shame adopting Naruto had been forbidden. Wait, what? Hana asked in shock as her mother left the room. How come Ka gets off easy? She began to chase after her mother. You've scared off and intimidated all the boys have tried to bring home, and Ka gets an alright then when you haven't even met the brat. Get better taste, Soon retorted. Ka blinked as she considered what just happened. Her completely and utterly terrifying cross between a man-eater and man-hater had just approved of Naruto as a boyfriend. There was no good way of feeling about this. Not pursuing it would be throwing away the first boyfriend approval some had ever given. But pursuing it would mean that Ka liked Naruto, which she certainly did not. At least not like that. It's just a date as friends. Ka reaffirmed to herself. It's just ramen. She breathed in and out for a moment, calming herself down. Akamaru barked and yipped at her. She threw an article of clothing directly at the pup, not helping. Eventually, Hana returned, assuming the typical older sister pose that involved leaning against the doorframe with her arms crossed. So, why are you searching through all your clothes? I'm trying to find something that makes me look like a girl, Ka grunted out as she began reaching deeper into her closet. She pulled out another plain-looking shirt and threw it on the bed along with the others in a huff. The date was soon, and she was beginning to lose hope. Peef fed. You might as well be a boy, Hana said, walking over to Ka's pile and pulled out some clothing at random. You have no idea how to dress like a girl. She examined the clothing she picked out and threw one at Ka. Why is it so important that you do? Ka began to put on the top she was handed. Nar thought I was a boy, Ka reminded. And it wasn't just him. A girl. Sakura thought I was a boy, too. That one hurt more. Nar was an oblivious idiot. But Sakura was actually smart. Kind of. She did chase after Sasaki, which was stupid. Nar was a lot better in that regard. KBA chose to ignore that thought. Hana laughed. I sometimes think mom is a guy. Some certainly did wear the pants in almost any relationship. But it's not the clothes that make the girl. Hana tossed another piece of clothing at Ka, who dutifully put it on. It's the girl that makes the clothes. Hana smirked as she examined the top that she gave Ka. That one might have worked a cup size ago. Hana. Ka shrieked, blushing. Relax. Squirt. Besides, showing them off is a great way to remind everyone you're a girl. Hana smiled as her little sister's face began to heat up even more. Torturing siblings was so much fun, especially when they got to have a boyfriend and Hana did not. Hana grabbed a hold of Ka's hair. Now, she said, let's make certain that Naruto knows you are indeed female. Akamaru barked and wed again. I will give you a bath. Ka shouted as she felt Hana comb and pull at her rough and tangled hair. 4x Ka bounced on her feet. Not out of happiness or of excitement or God forbid nervousness. There was no way having a meeting with Naruto would make her feel any of those things. She was bouncing on her feet because she was bored and impatient. Nar wasn't here yet. It wasn't that Nar was late. It was more that Ka was early. A good 10 minutes early. Ka was 10 minutes early because she had nothing better to do. All she had planned today was to eat ramen with Nar. All she had to do was make it through this date and then totally not freak out and visit Hinata again. Oh, hey, Akamaru. Nar casually walked up, greeting the dog first instead of Ka. Kiba's head instantly snapped to Nar. She didn't quite recognize him without that jacket on. It wasn't that he looked completely different. It was just that that stupid jacket was such a big part of what made Naruto Nar. It was weird without him wearing it. Have you seen Ka? Nar asked the dog, who instantly made a sound that was probably laughter. Actually, it was laughter. That spark of anger that began to form in Ka's gut was instantly washed away by confusion and then for a second amusement. I'm right here, you idiot. Ka barked, stomping her feet. Nar blinked at her. His mouth fell open. Wow, that was not the reaction Ka was expecting, but she was rather glad she had gotten that reaction out of Nar. Naruto's shock turned to a kind and warm smile. Your hair is really pretty like that. This marked the day that Ka would start to comb her hair every day. Well, almost every day. Ka's blush did its best to make itself known. Fortunately, Naruto was oblivious. Whatever. Ka huffed, crossing her arms in annoyance. It's not like I did it for you. Feeling bold, Ka grabbed a hold of Naruto's bare arm and quickly pulled him into the cozy ramen stand. Now, let's get ramen. Nar frowned as he was nearly thrown onto his stool by Ka. Hey, watch it. Nar grunted as he barely managed to catch himself on the stool. You might be dressed like a girl, Nar recited from the big book of what not to say on a date, but you don't act like one. PFD. Kiba snorted as she took her seat next to Nar. Not like Sakura is any better. She grabbed one of the menu cards. Like, really, why do you let her hit you all the time? Ka also had made a mistake, bringing up another girl. Nar frowned and shrugged as he easily took his seat next to Ka. Compared to Sakura, that light shove Ka gave him really was nothing. Though she hadn't hit him in a while, when was the last time Sakura hit him? Not since the mission in the wave, right? Well, she hasn't done it in a while, Naruto huffed offhandedly. He didn't need to look at the menu in order to order. This was his stand after all. His name was even written on one of the seats. His mood improved the moment the smell of broth hit his nostrils. One miso ramen with extra pork, please. Ka was looking at the menu, but she wasn't really reading it. A sudden rush came over her as she once again smelled Nar. He smelled really, really good, as if he had taken a shower in spring water while fighting a lion. It was a clean, musky, manly smell that wafted over to her. Her nose twitched. And what about you? Ayame asked Ka, causing the young Inuka to jump. Oh, Ka gulped as she read the menu more intently. She turned, looking at Nar. What has the most meat? When she didn't receive an answer, Ka realized the boy wasn't paying attention. She was going out on a date with him and he was just going to sit there and ignore her. Ka leaned over and shouted loudly into the boy's ears. Narga! Nar nearly fell from his seat once again. He spun around to face the loudmouth next to him. What the hell was that for, Ka? I asked you a question. Ka snorted as she pointed at the menu. What ramen has the most meat? What can't you read? Nar asked as he leaned over to look at the menu. I'm not the dead last, you idiot. Ka snorted. But you were the ramen expert and this is your favorite place. So help me out and order me a ramen with a lot of meat. Akamaru yipped from the ground behind the curtain. Nobody asked you. Ka growled at the dog before directing her scowl towards Nar. Here the one called Meat Lover's Ramen should have everything you want on it. Naruto said, pointing directly at the menu in Ka's hand. So, one Meat Lover's Ramen? Ayame asked, a rather concerned and biased look on her face. Naruto was acting like this was just lunch with friends. The girl was acting like this should be a date, but she didn't really want it to be a date. It was going to be fun to watch. Ka nodded quickly. Yes, please. She kept glaring over at Naruto as they sat there quietly waiting for their ramen. She needed him to say something. Nar needed to talk to her. This was a date, right? Hey, Nar said suddenly, shooting up in his seat. Ka instantly stood at attention, looking at Naruto as she sucked her bottom lip over her teeth. How come you're on a team with Hinata if you're both girls? Ihaya blinked at the question. She had never actually thought about it. The only male on her team was Shino and Akamaru. and neither one of them were particularly threatening to females. Then there was Karana. To say that she was a man-hater was wrong, but the Junin sensei of Team 8 made her opinion known that kunoichi were just as strong as their male counterparts. Maybe Karana sensei requested it. I think Karuka assigned the teams, though, Naruto said, tapping his foot against the leg of the stool. A pang of realization went through him. Do you think he thought you were a guy, too? Naruto's tone almost sounded hopeful, as if it would make him feel like less of an idiot if Sakura and Iruka were both wrong about Ka's gender as well. After all, they were essentially the two smartest people Naruto knew. Ka frowned, her mouth slightly open as she tried to think of a reader or an instance where Iruka had called her cabana or made any indication. Even when they were split by gender for certain activities, Ka stayed with the boys, largely because she wasn't friends with any of the girls. She had always thought that Iruka was just understanding and didn't really care. Memories of Iruka shouting at her when she was making trouble with Naruto, Choji, and Shikamaru flashed through her mind. It was always, you boys or you guys. She was never singled out as a girl. I hope not, Ka groaned out, her head meeting with the hard wooden countertop. I don't even want to know how many people thought I was a boy. The number was already several times greater than she ever thought possible. It was bad enough that Nar and Sakura were on that list. Ka did not want to add any names to the list. Well, it's your fault for dressing like a boy, Nar joked. Ka crossed her arms with a mighty huff. Akamaru barked in agreement with Nar. It was just a jacket. KBA protested. Hinata wears a jacket. Hinata acts like a girl. KBA's chopsticks snapped in two. Shut up. Nar did just that, although he allowed a nervous chuckle to escape. And then there was ramen. For a brief, glorious few seconds, Ka's senses were completely overwhelmed, and all traces of Naruto vanished. The bowl before her was a hot steaming pile of noodle and meat. Not a single vegetable was seen on the glorious mountain of meat and egg. Before her sat the manliest, meatiest bowl of ramen Ka had ever laid her eyes on. Its aroma was heavy and hung in the air like a thick viscous fog that seemed determined to fill her nostrils to the brim. The smell of the beef mixed with the sour smell of the chicken that performed the tango with the pork, all while having dirty with the noodles as they stewed in the thick broth. It reminded her of Nar. Looking over at her date, Heiha allowed the tips of her lips to twitch as she saw how engrossed Naruto was with his meal. He was nearly inhaling the ramen like a mad animal, and if her ramen tasted as good as his smell, Ka would likely be doing the same. Elegantly, grabbing one of the beef strips and wrapping it tightly in noodles, Ka breathed on it once, enjoying the visual of the steam floating away from her before flowing back up towards her nose. The taste did not disappoint KBA. This was her first time eating at this ramen stand. Bowls filled with noodles and liquid just didn't sound anywhere near as good as barbecue where she could eat all the meat she wanted. But this bowl was simply divine. Thanks for the meal, Ka. Nar said as he was finished with his bowl of ramen. He practically inhaled his. Ka was nearly envious of the speed at which Nar consumed his ramen. She didn't want to savor her ramen. She wanted it in her. Now I'll see you later. KBA blinked as she slurped up a piece of beef that was a bit long. Nar was leaving now in the middle of their date. What the hell? What the hell? Ka shouted as anger quickly rose up inside of her. Sure, the date so far had been a shitty one. The only positive was the ramen and Nar saying he liked her hair. But that was it. Other than that, they had been arguing for no good reason. But Nar was leaving so soon. He could at least wait until she finished her ramen. Was that too much to ask for? Why the air you leaving now? Nar mused, confused, as Ka angrily rose to meet him, once again, demonstrating that she was indeed taller than he was. I thought you just wanted to buy me a bowl of ramen. You should at least wait for your date to finish her meal before you decided to end the dated. Ka shouted. Her hands were shaking and her face was flushed with anger. Akamaru joined her in growling at Naruto. What? Nar asked. This was the first he heard of it being a date. He thought it was just free food. This was a date. Whatever. Fine. Ka shouted, turning around, huffing. It's not like I wanted to go out on a date with an idiot loser like you. Ka began marching off. I hope you lose to Neji, you stupid bastard. Akamaru followed dutifully behind his partner. Ka wait. Nar attempted to chase after her, but was instantly put in his place by the savage barks of Akamaru. The small dog snarled at the blonde, showing fangs and all. How dare this idiot boy make his Ka cry? Whoa Akamaru, calm down. The dog continued barking madly and snapped at Nar, causing Nar to back away in shock, not wanting to get bitten by the dog. Okay, Nar surrendered. With a huff, Akamaru turned to leave. Boy, you messed that one up, Nar. Ayame said with a deep frown. Who's going to pay the bill? Tuki asked from behind the counter. Nar frowned as he pulled out his wallet and paid for their meal. Things were going to be tight now. Meat Lover's ramen were expensive and now he felt rather guilty about what happened with Ka and couldn't even bother to finish her half-empty bowl of ramen. 4x. Alright, Nar, Jiraiya said with a deep sigh. He'd been watching his most recent blonde student struggle with summoning so much as a tadpole compared to yesterday when he summoned Gamahiro. It was a large setback. However, this was Naruto's usual level of sucking. What's wrong? Nothing. Nar shouted with a frown as he tried to summon another frog. This time, absolutely nothing happened again. Really? Jiraiya asked. Nothing sure does sound like a whole lot of something. It was the same nothing Kosa would say she was doing when she started appearing around Minato's training sessions. Goo fine, Naruto sighed as he crossed his arms in frustration. Girls are weird, Nar started off. Being a connoisseur of women, Jiraiya couldn't help but nod at the truth of the statement. Well, I happen to know everything there is to know about a woman, so tell me your woes, my boy. Nar wasn't entirely certain he believed his sensei. Getting off your chest is going to do more than summoning more tadpoles. Naruto sighed in defeat. You know that girl Ka I chased after yesterday. Jiraiya nodded. Well, I was going to buy her a bowl of ramen to make up for thinking she was a guy. Jiraiya laughed at that. Shut up. What? It's funny. Jiraiya defended himself meekly as his jovial smile began to irritate Nar more than it normally did. Whatever, Nar said, crossing his arms with a huff. I couldn't do it because I lost my jackets which had my coupons in it. Naruto turned slightly towards the direction he lost his jacket. He still needed to try and find it. So she said she would buy me a bowl of ramen. So what's the problem? Jiraiya asked, raising an eyebrow nice and high on his massive head. She thought it was a date. Nar wailed. She didn't act like it was. She didn't say the word date. She just said that she would buy me a bowl of ramen. Naruto whined as he began flailing his arms. So after I ate my ramen, she yells at me and then runs off. Jiraiya hummed as he began to pull his years of chasing women into Naruto's problem. Did she hit you? No, Nar said after a moment. Sure, she pushed him into his seat. But that didn't really hurt. It was more of a surprise. Was she happy to see you? Not really. No, Nar said honestly. If it wasn't for ramen, he probably would have left after first saying hello to Ka. It took Ka all of 5 words before she insulted Nar, though he might have earned it given how he didn't see Ka standing right in front of him. I see. Jiraiya began to rub his chin as an image of what happened began to form in his mind. Did she look any different than normal? Yay, Nar replied quickly. She had her hair down and wasn't wearing her jacket. It was a bit weird seeing Ka without her jacket during the churning exams. It was even weirder seeing her not dressed as a shinobi. With her hair down, she might even be prettier than Sakura. Naruto was reminded for a moment of the last time he was confused about somebody's gender. And did she say something like Jiraiya coughed into his hand as he prepared to do his best teenage girl impersonation? Idiot. It was comically bad how off-pitch was like trying to make a trumpet sound like a triangle. It's not like I did it for you or anything. Yay. How do you know? Nar asked confused. That was pretty much exactly what Ka had said to him in almost the exact same tone, just in less of an old man trying to sound like a little girl voice. You, my boy, Jiraiya grasped Naruto's shoulders tightly, have managed to attract one of the most complex women out there. Jiraiya paused for dramatic effect. Kiba is a Sununer. What a sounder. Only Naruto could ask such an innocent question. A woman that hates the fact that she has a crush on you, Jiraiya explained simply. It was the same story with Minato and Kosa. And Kasha was one hell of a tormented Minato for months until he finally kissed Kosa and calmed her down significantly. What? There's no way Ka can have a crush on me. Nerd protests fell on uncaring ears. Yay, sure. Just don't be surprised if she comes to give you a thoughtful present in the future. Jiraiya ruffled Naruto's hair as he smiled at his poor naive student. Now get back to work. Unless you want me to throw you off a cliff, because that's the only way you can summon something bigger than a turkey sandwich. Nar wasn't entirely certain if Jera was joking or not. 4x stupid annoying, Ka grumbled to herself. She was stuck up in a tree. Climbing wasn't exactly something Anuka prided themselves on. They had dogs, not cats. Her shirt had ripped at some point during the climb, and now her shorts were snagged on another branch. Akamaru barked. Yay, I see it. Just let me get it. Ka stretched out slowly, reaching her target. Just a few more inches. The branch creaked and snapped. Ka was falling and in a desperate swing, she lurched forward, grabbing on to the sleeve of Naruto's jacket. Her fall down wasn't as graceful as it would have been for another ninja. She ungracefully crashed down along the tree, brushing and banging against nearly every branch on the way down, but she still landed on her feet. Akamaru winded at her. "Shut up. I was careful. Nothing broken," Ka said, slapping her arms and legs. Still, it did hurt. But she managed to get what she was after. Naruto's jacket. All it cost her was a couple of scrapes and bruises, but she had gotten Naruto's jacket back. Now, all she had to do was give it to him, and he wouldn't be mad at her for their date. There were two things that stopped Ka from running off to find Nar right then. Firstly, Naruto's jacket was ripped along the armpit on the right arm. The tear was repairable, but it wasn't wearable for anything more than walking at the moment. The second was that Ka's own shirt was little more than scraps. This was why she wore her jacket. It could take a beating and not rip. Ka sighed as she removed the scraps of her shirt and put on Naruto's jacket. "Guess I'll have to wear this and hope nobody sees me." It smelled just like him. Ka glared at Akamaru as she zipped Naruto's hoodie all the way up. "Don't say anything," Ka commanded. "Not a goddamn thing." Seamstress on the list of things that Ka was not seamstress was pretty high up there. Right below male crushing on Naruto or air. She was not a sunner. She, like all Anuka, wore her emotions on her sleeve. Ow. Ka swore for the nth time, pricking her finger once again with the sewing needle. She had taken it upon herself to fix Naruto's jacket. He had lost it while saving Akamaru, and she had torn it trying to get it back for him. "Darn it," whimpered Ka, and she sucked on her finger when a bit of blood began to seep from the wound. It confused her how she was able to prick herself on the pinky of the hand that was holding the needle in the first place. She wasn't doing this for Nar. She was doing this so she wouldn't owe Nar anything. Akamaru barked and flipped a page on the book Ka had found for repairing shinobi attire. Ha smiled and rubbed Akamaru's head. "Thanks, bud." She continued to read, making certain she had the stitch right. She had the stitching manual her mother used whenever she tore her jacket or pants. She even had the idea to add in a couple pieces of armor inside of the jacket. Akamaru yipped and then bolted away, Ka lunging after him. Ka's face flushed and she made a mad dash to try and stop Akamaru. "No, don't you dare." She reached out to grab him, but he slipped away just as her fingers began to close around the fur of his tail. "If you so much as growl at Mom, I'm going to tie you up." And unfortunately for Ka, Akamaru was quicker and far more clever. Ka crashed headfirst into her mother, sending one of them sprawling down onto the floor below. Equally unfortunate was the fact that her mother was made of sturdy stuff. "Watch it, pup," Soon barked, picking her daughter up. "What did I say about running in the house?" Ka pouted. Some had never actually said anything about running in the house. She frequently did it herself. Accepting her mother's outstretched hand, Ka attempted to come up with some sort of well-crafted lie. Some didn't take kindly to the truth at times. Although she often demanded it, Ka had to think quickly. Not to break anything. Right, Some barked, pulling her daughter up to her feet with a rough tug. And that includes yourself. She examined her daughter's hand. A dozen or so band-aids littered the fingertips where few scabs had begun to form. "What on earth have you been doing?" Akamaru barked with authority. Some eyes went wild and a feral, menacing grin spread across her face. She shoved past her daughter, nearly knocking Ka onto the floor again. "Just one date and you're already taking home his clothes. Let's see what the damage is." Kba chased after her mother, yelping in dismay when Some entered her room. "Mom, wait," but it was too late. Some already had her paws on Naruto's jacket. "I'm not done yet. This stitching won't hold." Soon plucked one of the strands of Ka's handwork with her nail, and the whole thing fell apart. At the look of dismay on Ka's face, Soon snorted. "Let me help you." Ka pulled Naruto's jacket away from her mother, who gave surprisingly little resistance. Normally when her mother said, "Help," she meant you watch while I do everything and don't you dare think about even breathing wrong. "No, I need to do this. I tore Naruto's jacket, so I need to fix it myself." Soon let out a mighty gappa that lasted several seconds, then gave her daughter a pat on the head. "There are 3 ways into a man's heart," Soon began, ignoring Ka's groan of protest. "One is through his stomach. Your boy should be easy. His jacket smells like ramen." Soon pointed at Naruto's jacket. "The second is to fix all of his small things so he can't think about how he would live without you." Heya nodded at the second point. It explained why her mother was so good at fixing just about everything. The third. When her mother's grin began to widen and she placed both hands on Ka's shoulders, regret pulled itself at the bottom of her gut. "The third way is the best. If you figure out how to make him moan when you ma," Soon cut herself off as she sniffed Ka. "Wait, You haven't bled yet. Ka's face went red and she shrieked in disgust. Mom's smile shifted into one of amusement. Ah, don't worry so much about it. Your sister was a late bloomer, too. She brought her hands to her chest and then cupped the air in front of her. And boy, did she bloom. I have no idea where she got those sweater puppies. Certainly not from me. Sun then gave her daughter a wicked eye. And from the looks of things, you're going to follow after her bra steps. Mom. Sun simply smiled even wider. And didn't that Naruto boy make the jutsu? She mused. Boy, you should see the cans on that thing. I think he'll love yours when you finish growing. Ka remained silent, shades of red previously unknown to the likes of mankind flashing across her cheeks. Akamaru rolled on the ground, mimicking laughter, having thoroughly teased her daughter to the point where even the walls were nearly glowing red in embarrassment. Sun sighed and looked over at the material Ka had gotten. Her eyes sharpened and she frowned. Her daughter was an idiot. It looks like you were going to add armor to it. Ka perked up. Yeah, I was going to add it inside. After you stitched it up, her mother deadpanned. Ka shut her mouth so fast it made a slight pop. You also have leg plates here. Sun continued, holding the jacket in the air and squinting at it. Not only are they heavier, but they'd also curve projectiles, funny, and simply let them just slide in, maybe even causing the attack to do more damage. Soon grabbed the fabric and string Ka had been using. These are mostly right, but your stitching is wrong. Ka huffed and stomped her feet. Mom, I'll do it myself. Yes, you will, but I'm going to help. Soon said sharply. Now sit down, girl. Can't have your boyfriend get killed in battle because you did a crappy job fixing his jacket. Hei sighed and surrendered to her mother's demands. It was odd bonding with her mother in something that wasn't related to the dogs or being a ninja. And while fixing and maintaining armored clothing was ninja related, it was far different from learning techniques or being trained. It was a nice experience. It reminded Ka of her early years before her dad left. Hey mom, Ka asked, attempting to finish the last stitch. Her fingers had sustained significantly less damage than last time. She still managed to prick herself often, though, and burned herself when they melted the threads for the chest armor. You're doing fine, pup, Sunam said, watching her daughter's hand carefully. Did love us? Sung froze at the question. Even now after 6 years being reminded of the man who fathered her children froze her in her tracks. Your father soon began lightly rubbing Ka's shoulder. Loved you and Hana more than anything in the world. Why'd he leave us then? I need to get started on dinner. Soon's eyes furrowed at the end of her words. She left the room but paused at the doorway. After a moment of silent contemplation, she sighed. He didn't leave because of you. He left because of me. Ka frowned and stared at Naruto's jacket. She wasn't entirely certain how she should feel about her father. He left his family and yet she missed him. His jovial smiles, the strength he showed, the love he gave to his family. It wasn't until she looked up to ask her mother another question that she noticed the woman was gone. Catching a small whiff of Naruto's scent, Ka sighed. One of her earliest smells was of her father's scent, the smell of an alpha, and Naruto reminded her of it. Akamaru wed and pawed at KBA's leg, smiling. Ka bent down to pat her companion's head. Thanks, boy, you'll always have my back, even when I don't want you to write. Akamaru barked affirmatively, grabbing Naruto's jacket and her own. Ka began to leave. Let's give Nar his jacket before dinner. It wouldn't be too hard to find him with Naruto's scent hard-boiled into her nose. 4x. After his training with Jiraiya, Naruto had been ambushed. It was his own fault. He wandered in front of Ikyaku's largely to feel sorry for himself, having already examined his empty wallet. It was then that he noticed Ayame marching towards him, a deep scowl on her face. Nar then found himself sitting in Ayame's house above the ramen stand. An untouched glass of tea sat before him and a scowling Ayame across from him. Ayame took a small sip of her own tea. From behind her glass, she leveled a small glare at him. Drink the tea, Nar. Not wanting to question Ayame's demands or make her even more angry, Nar gulped down Ayame's tea. It was bitter with no sweetener. He let out a light laugh to try and ease the tension, but Ayame killed it with a look. Did I do something wrong? Ayame sighed, taking another sip of her tea. She squinted, looking down at him. What happened yesterday, Nar? Nar wasted no time in getting on the defensive. That wasn't my fault. I didn't know it was. Ayame slammed her hand on the table and Nar jumped. That's not the point. Seeing Nar shut his mouth with an audible click, Ayame calmed down and continued. First, I understand that you didn't realize it was a date. But you were still rude to her. She sighed. She kind of likes you, you know. Hey, she started out calling me an idiot. Nar retorted, crossing his arms with a huff. And there's no way Ka likes me. Ayame rolled her eyes. I never said she wasn't rude either, but you caused most of it. She took another sip from her tea. I suppose I should start with your positives. When you first saw her, you complimented her and said that her hair looked pretty. That was good. Did you see the look on her face when you did it? Naruto hemmed as he attempted to recall the previous day's events. A lot of it he didn't want to remember. He was fairly certain Ka hated him at this point. She smiled and kind of blushed for a second. Right. Ayame smiled and clapped her hands. Good. You're not completely oblivious after all. Nar grumbled at that. Now on to the second thing you did right. When Ka ran away, you at least tried to chase after her. Ayame paused and looked at Naruto with a scrutinizing gaze to say sorry, right? Yeah, good. Ayame happily clapped once again. As for everything else, you should be glad you didn't get a bowl of ramen dumped on your head with how you treated her. Naruto's retort was silenced before it even began. Don't get me wrong, you were both terrible dates, but I can't fix her. She jabbed her finger into his chest. I can, however, fix you. The term fix made Nar uncomfortable and he had to suppress the urge to cross his legs. Pouring herself more Ayame offered some to Nar. When he refused, she poured him some more anyways. When somebody offers to buy you food, you shouldn't just ignore them and start eating. You need to talk more and not with your mouth full. Naruto looked confused, but then when am I supposed to eat? Ayame wondered for a second if her eyes would roll out of her head. She really couldn't blame Naruto. His only form of table manners were the ones she gave him when he came to eat at their stand. In between bites, wait until you finish your bite to ask or answer questions. Nar looked at his cup of tea and took a small sip of it. Like this, Nar asked after his sip and setting the gross beverage down again. Taking a drink of her own, Ayame smiled and nodded. Exactly. She placed her cup down once again. And when a girl asks you for help when you're eating together, you should. Naruto froze, waiting for Ayame to continue. When she didn't, he furrowed his brows in confusion. Oh, help them. If Naruto was a dog, he would have gotten a biscuit. 4x Ka followed her nose directly to Ikyaku Ramen. The place smelled so much like Naruto, it wasn't even funny. Nar didn't smell like ramen. Ramen smelled like Nar. Ha sighed and walked into the stand, holding Naruto's jacket in her arms. Tuki greeted her with a smile. Ah, hello again. Would you like a second helping of Meat Lover's ramen? Ka shook her head. No. Her mother would be rather displeased if she went out to eat just before dinner. No, I'm actually looking for Nar. Have you seen him? Tuki smiled brightly at that. Yes, my daughter decided to drill some manners into him during her break. She should be down soon. The dinner rush is about to begin. It was then that Tuki noticed Naruto's jacket in Ka's arms. Oh, so you're the one that's been keeping that from Nar. He just doesn't look the same without it. Ka's blush bloomed like a lotus flower. I only have it because I fixed it. Tuki's smile grew wider at that. The same smile he wore when somebody offered to buy Naruto all the ramen he could eat. And I only fixed it because he lost it and it tore, not because I like him or anything. Tuki gave Ka a great belly laugh at the way she was acting. Say you're Sum's youngest daughter, right? Ka gave a curt nod. She's why I can't order. She's making dinner. Tuki usually left gossiping to his daughter. After all, Ayame had become the lovable face of his establishment. But the ramen chef saw all and knew all that happened within his stand. You know, having a bad first date here is a good sign, Tuki said with a shrug, as he recalled years in the past. I remember when your father, Turo, came into the stand, dragging along that tomboy soon. I had just opened up, and he had just asked her out. Ka froze at that. She hadn't heard her father's name in years. It was taboo in their house. But what was more shocking was that Kuki made it sound like her father had asked her mother out. Wait, my dad asked my mom out. Tuki nodded. Yep, she used to be even more wild when she was younger. Scared all the guys away, but Turo was fearless. Somehow he managed to convince Sunam to go out with him. Ka swallowed down a lump in throat. No way. Though they stopped coming here as often once your mother learned to cook, Tuki mused. Your father ended up with a bowl of ramen on his head and soon stormed away. Don't really remember what for. I just remember it was a waste of good ramen. Ka wasn't entirely certain if she could even believe this ramen man. For years, her mother had told her that her father was a coward and that he ran away because of her. Do you have some proof? Tuki frowned at that proof. Do you think I take photos of every couple that has a date at my shop? Snorting at the ridiculous notion, he began to clean his ramen bar with a rag he procured from underneath the countertop. You and your sister are all the proof I need. Ask your mother. A man, followed by his pregnant wife, entered the ramen stand, and Tuki moved to serve them. After taking their orders and beginning the prep work, free from the man's attention, Ka's senses began to drift elsewhere. She heard the small click of a lock coming undone from upstairs and the squeak of a rarely oiled door as it opened. And several moments later, a Yame appeared behind the counter, followed by Naruto. For reasons unknown to Ka, she bolted out of the ramen stand. Unfortunately for her, being quick did not equal being stealthy. Hey, Ka, wait. Ka felt her sweat run cold and her blood boil, her heart beating to its own rhythm. Nar was probably still mad at her for running away during their date. Not that he thought it was a date, or maybe for leaving him with a bill and saying that she hoped he'd lose. Hey, Ka. Ka turned on her feet, beginning a bow at the waist when she was facing Nar. I'm sore. Crack. Ow. The bow was cut short, and they both shot back, each reeling from the feeling of having headbutted the other. It sounded like two coconuts banging into each other. And had the circumstances been different and his forehead less in pain, Nar would have probably found the situation hilarious. If Akamaru could have laughed, he would have. Ow, 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 Ka said, rubbing her face into Naruto's jacket in an attempt to rub away the pain. Ow, Nar groaned, readjusting his forehead protector. For once, the object did its job. It still hurt a bit, though Ka had a hard head. Recovering first, Naruto stood upright and began his half-practiced speech. Ka, I'm sorry for how I treated you yesterday. And Naruto paused, watching as Ka eyed him curiously from behind his jacket. Is that my jacket? Ka yelled and threw the jacket at Naruto's face. It was a good 10 pounds heavier now that the armor had been added to it. And Nar, not expecting it to be thrown at him or for it to be several times heavier than he was used to, had to stumble backwards. Ka blanched. Sorry. Nar looked at his jacket and inspected it, noting that some of the tears he had gotten were taken care of, and that there was a large stitch along one of the armpits. Oh, hey, did you fix this? Nar didn't wait for her to answer, putting it on. Wow, it feels heavier. What did you do to it? It's not like I did it for you. Kba snorted quickly. She blushed, realizing what she had said again. After yesterday, I went to go get your jacket. Since I left you with the bill, I thought this was a good way to say sorry. Ka examined her feet. I even added a bit of armor to it to help your fight against Nae. Nar couldn't contain his excitement. Ka had gotten him a truly wonderful gift. He loved his jacket, and now it was even better than before. Thank you so much, Ka. Nar yelled, pulling Ka into a tight hug. Ka squealed when the boy leapt forward. Physical contact with Nar, while not entirely unwanted, was still a surprise. Naruto's excitement was twofold. He got his jacket back, and he was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, Jiraiya and Ayame were right. Maybe Ka really did like him. Raw excitement flushed over him. A girl liked him. Ka would have returned the hug with just as much enthusiasm if she wasn't freaking out or if her arms weren't pinned to her sides. Nar was hugging her with more force than when he grabbed her during the Chunin exams, and she could feel her vision starting to fade from the pressure. Worse still was the warmth Ka felt from the hug and the warmth in Naruto's voice. It might have been pleasant if she could breathe. Nar, Ka pleaded. Nar dropped Kba quickly and took a step back, his cheeks red from embarrassment. Sorry, Ka. When Ka puts her hood down, she definitely looks prettier than Sakura, he noted after he took a long look at her. I was just happy that you did this for me and that you're not mad at me anymore. Ka blushed. How could she hate Naruto after yesterday? The whole thing was her fault. She was rude to him from the start, and she never actually said the word date until it was too late. You idiot, Ka whispered, steeling herself. You should have been mad at me. I called you names and said that I hoped you'd lose, which I don't. You need to kick Nae's butt for Hinata. Naruto's smile widened at that. Yeah, I beat you, so I'll be able to go all the way to top, right? The implied compliment made Ka smile. You bet. I can't have the guy the first lost to losing in the first round. Sticking her fist out towards Nar. She waited for him to bump it. You better win. I don't want to waste my cheering on a loser. Nar smiled and bumped Ka's fist. Don't worry, I'll make Chunin no problem. Dropping her fist, Ka looked at Nar, biting her bottom lip ever so slightly. Hey, she began as the storm inside her raged. After the Chunin exams are over, she trailed off and Naruto let out and elongated him. Would you like to go out with me? Was she really doing this? Was she really going to actually ask Nar out on a date just after their last one failed so bad? On some missions, Ka quickly added, shaking away the thoughts that plagued her mind. Nar didn't allow his smile to fall. He was kind of hoping she would say date, but missions with Ka sounded just fine as well. Okay, Just the two of us. Not wanting to be ignored, Akamaru jumped up between the two and barked. Three of us, Ka corrected, bending down to pick up Akamaru. Naruto rolled his eyes with a smile and a huff, leaning down to ruffle the fur on Akamaru's head. Yeah, sure, I guess Akamaru can come. Akamaru wagged his tail, trying to play bite at Naruto's hand. Ka smiled one last time. Well, I need to go before my mom yells at me. She turned on her heel and began running off. You better not lose, you idiot. Nar waved goodbye. Ka had a weird way of wishing him luck. Ka was running. She was late. Narin had probably left already. She was an hour late, so she would have done the same thing. If he was still there, she didn't want to keep him waiting any longer than necessary. Her unst hair floated like a mudslide behind her. It was a Saturday. It was only natural to sleep in after all. KBA skidded around the corner of her home. Her exit, however, was blocked by mirthful Hana. With a wide stance and hands on her hips, it was clear that Hana wasn't going to let her little sister off easily. Late for your date, runt. Hana barked, venom foaming from each word. Ka didn't slow. It had been well over a month since her and Naruto had had their date. She had finally found him again. Not that she was looking for him and established a time for their second date. Not that it was a date. Ka jked right and Akamaru fainted to the left. It was during this time that Hana had developed into a bigger underscore than normal, constantly teasing and tormenting Ka about Nar. It got worse with each failed man she tried to bring home, which had been 3. In the last month, Akamaru used the wall as a springboard and landed safely on Hana's head. With Hana distracted, Ka used the opportunity to slip between her sister's legs and make her break to freedom. It's not a date. Ka backpedaled to stick her tongue out at her sister. Akamaru kept pace with her, a smug look on his puppy dog face. Hana huffed and crossed her arms. Her little sister hadn't been that happy in a while. She nearly let a smile slip. Mom's cooking tonight, so don't be late. I don't want to have to spend my day off finding you. Ka wisely chose to keep her mouth shut. Akamaru didn't. Running behind Ka, he let out a few yips. Hana's face went red as she sucked on her bottom lip. Ka snorted. You know she'll neuter you for that one, right? At the whines Akamaru made, Ka almost felt sorry for her smart-mouthed companion. Almost 4x. Ka rounded the corner to the Hoag's office just a bit too fast. She heard the sound of what could have only been 2 coconuts bouncing off of each other first, followed by a deep pain on her forehead. Once again, the forehead protector was proving to just be for show. Ow. 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 Ka and another voice said at the same time. Across from her on the ground sat Nar, rubbing his forehead in a similar fashion to Ka. She was hoping Nar was still there, but she didn't want to literally run into him like that. Why don't you watch where you're going, you idiot? Today was off to a fantastic start. Nar stood to his feet in one quick motion when he realized that it was Ka he had booted heads with. A wide grin spread across his face. He was still here after he slept in. Hey, Ka, Nar offered his hand. Sorry I'm late. I slept in. He grinned, shrinking back a bit in embarrassment. I wasn't looking where I was going because I thought you'd be gone by now. An odd mixture of relief, anger, and embarrassment raged in Ka's mind. She took Naruto's hand quickly enough, using his bulk to hoist herself up with ease. She wanted to tell him that they were both late so that they could laugh and just continue on with the day, but it came out as whatever. It's not like I was waiting around for you, dumbass. A smile spread across Naruto's face. He couldn't help but roll his eyes, which seemed to anger Ka further. Then what are you still doing here? Ka froze. She was caught. Akamaru gave a whine bark. Ka snarled at him and the dog shut up quickly enough. I was late too. Okay. Ka stared at Nar, her ears slowly turning red. Her eyes kept darting away from his. And then he was laughing. And then they were laughing. Nar calmed himself for a moment. Let's do it in the afternoon next time. We're not morning people. Ka could only nod in agreement. She pumped her left hand with extra enthusiasm. Well, let's get this started. I'm ready to do some missions. Aren't you going to Nar coughed as Ka turned to face the door. Ka blinked at her Saturday morning mission buddy. Do what? Let go of my hand. She never did let go of his hand when he helped her up. How long had they been standing there talking and holding hands in front of the Hokage Tower? No less. Who saw them? Did it matter? Yes, it mattered. No, it didn't. Did it matter because it was him? Did it not matter because of him? Ka yelled quickly, letting go of Naruto's hand and taking an extra step away from him. Folding her arms and pouting at Nar, she gave him a weak glare. Not my fault. You hit my head so hard I forgot about it. Nar gave her a half smirk, rolling his eyes once more. Whatever. Let's go hit up Granny for some missions. Like a true gentleman, Nar opened the door for Ka. Ka took the open door and waited for Nar to join her in the hallway. So, is she actually your grandma? It'd be pretty cool to be related to a Hokage. The rush of air that came out of Naruto's nose was a clear indication that the idea was ludicrous. Nah, she just looks young. She's actually really old and uses a jutsu to make herself look young, so I call her Granny because it bugs her. Ka let out a bark of laughter. Annoying the Hogue doesn't seem like a good idea, Naruto. They arrived at the Hogue's office. It was Ka's first time receiving missions from the new Hokage. She wasn't even certain if Lady Sununade would give 2 Gen and a couple of D ranks. Certainly, not everything needed to be handled by a team of 3 with a sensei. With her enhanced senses, Ka picked up on 2 rather worrying things. The first was that from the other side of the door, there was a slight rumbling like snoring. The second was the unmistakable smell of sheep sake. Heian knew the smell well. It was the kind her mother got on certain dates. With no sense of grace or manners, Naruto opened the door and barged in. Most people knocked. Nar wasn't most people. Lady, 5th Hokage of Konoha, was quick to sit upright. The empty body of sake that was sitting on her desk tipped over and began rolling off the side. Sununade caught it with her hand. Do I need to teach you manners, brat? With a huff, Naruto crossed his arms. Ayame has been giving me lessons every time I get ramen now. He didn't want to blame Ka, but their horrendous first day had sparked Ayame to take Naruto's lack of manners into her own hands. He still had no idea what he did wrong most of the time. KBA was quick to stand in front of Naruto and gave her new leader a deep bow. Hello, Lady Sununade. I am Ka Anuka. She had a deep respect for a female Hokage, even if it did crush her dream of being the first female Hokage. Me and this idiot are here to see if you have any missions we can do today. You two trying to get enough money to go on a date or something? Asked with a raised eyebrow. She wouldn't have cared if they had said yes. It was normal for teens to date. It was also normal for teens to need money. A calm refusal would have been slightly disappointing. With a deep blush that made her clan markings fade away, Ku looked at Naruto quickly 3 times, never once staring at him for longer than a blink. Her messy brown hair began to stand on its end. What? No way. We're not going to go on a date. Nar turned into a tomato with blonde hair. The mention of dating Ka gave him a sinking feeling inside of his gut. The memories of their failed date came bubbling up to the surface. As did every single one of Ayame's lessons. Worse still were Jiraiya's. Sununade smiled deeply. Oh, she was going to have fun teasing these two. Oh, shame. You two make a cute couple. For her efforts, was rewarded with more blushing. She might have to check on the girl at some point. That shade of red wasn't natural. Akamaru chased his tail. Whatever. Nar shouted, flailing his arms. Can we have a couple D ranks or not? Fine, said. Digging into a pile of D rank scrolls. She pulled out 3 here. Weed pulling should take about an hour. Finishing the file work won't take too long either, and finally painting a fence. Naruto's face crinkled in disgust as Sade listed off his tasks. Don't you have anything more exciting? A quick shove from Ka stopped Nar from complaining further. Those are fine, lady. Ka shot Naruto a shut the hell up glare and retrieved the scrolls from Sununade. You could learn a thing or two from your girlfriend, brat. Sununade had to restrain herself from rolling over with laughter at the expressions the two made. It was so fun to tease teenagers. They were so obvious about their feelings and in such denial about them as well. Ka pushed Nar out the door as quickly as she could, snapping her head back to yell at the Hokage. He's not my boyfriend. 4x pulling weeds as part of her genin team was a boring mechanical process. It honestly was one of Ka's least favorite missions, largely because she couldn't do it quickly most of the time. The owners didn't want their lawns to be dug up by a fang over fang. Perfectly reasonable, but still boring with Nar. However, Ka couldn't remember the last time she had laughed so hard. It helped that Nar also used a few shadow clones to speed up the process slightly. It was then that Ka realized that shadow clones smelled like Nar as well. It was going to her head. And then after I got behind him, I took out my kunai and stabbed him in the butt. Nar was animated as he retold one of his many fights. Then when he knocked me away, the explosive tag went off. An exploding kunai to the rear end just so happened to be in lines with Ka's sense of humor. Crude, effective, and just a little bit nasty. KBA's laugh helped her rip out a rather stubborn weed. She laughed too hard and let out an oink. Nar stopped and smiled at her. Ka tried to stop her laughter. It only made it worse. You oink. Nar shouted happily, pointing a finger at Ka with much enthusiasm. The shock of the sound that Ka made caused Nar to enter his own giggle fit quickly after. Ka's laugh devolved into hiccups as she tried to stop. She turned a slightly teary-eyed glare towards Nar, a few giggles still escaping her lips. You jerk. Don't make fun of my laugh. I'm not making fun of it, Nar said, calming his own laughter easily enough. A blush spread across his face as Naruto turned back down towards some of the weeds. I think it's kind of cute, Ka froze. She had only have been made fun of for her wounds. And yet, here Naruto was saying that it was cute. She was grateful that he was looking at the ground as he pulled up another weed. She couldn't help but smile and blush. You dumbass. What makes you think I care? The weed nerd was struggling with finally gave way as he pulled up a giant glob of dirt with its roots and all. He fell to his butt and looked at Ka. He presented the weed in his hand like an ugly trophy. Doesn't mean it's not cute. 4X Shizune made them wash their hands when they arrived for their next mission. She didn't want the files to get dirty. According to Shizune, the old system was absolutely rubbish and that her new system for organizing things would much more effective. Today, Shizune began by clicking a pen onto a clipboard. You two will be responsible for putting our shinobi files in alphabetical order. Some of them are retired. Me are deceased. Be sure to put them under the right category. Please sort them by last name first so that all the clans are together for quick and easy reference. A dead silence drifted between Naruto and Ka as they stared at Shizune and the massive stacks of files next to her. Neither one of them liked paper. It reminded them of academy homework, of the genin team assigned to do her mission. Only the little dog looked like he understood her, but that might have been because it wagged its tail when she looked at it. Any questions? Shizune asked, desperately, hoping to clear up any miscommunications. Nar and Ka stared at each other, then at the large intimidating stacks and finally back at Shizune. Nope, Naruto said, making a pop. Okay, Shizune said. She slowly began backing away from the duo. I'll be back in a bit to check on your progress. She'd be back in 30 minutes. They couldn't mess up things that badly, right? They were strong, capable ninja. You got it, Shizune. Nar said happily as Shizune left. Looking at Ka, Naruto stroked his chin and thought, how do you want to do this? Ka simply looked at the stacks once again. I don't know. You make a couple of clones and I'll read the file to find out where they're supposed to go. It sounded efficient. Eventually, they got a system down using just the right amount of clones for the job. They made fun of a few names, a few pictures. Nar brightened up when his file came up in his ridiculous ID. Picture he had taken was included with the Doover one the old man made him take and then everything stopped. Ka wasn't even aware of what she was holding until she was halfway through reading it. She froze. Her hands trembled as though she had just walked into the snow. In her hands was the profile of Taro Inosuke, her father. It had been so long since she had last seen a picture of him. Her mother had seen fit to remove all such photos from their house one day. He was standing firm in his identification photo. A true ninja of the leaf. Right below his rank Junin in big red letters was Mia. Ka fell to her knees. She hadn't seen her father since he just left one day. Some of her earliest memories were of seeing him off on missions with her mother and sister. It had been so long ago. Naruto's voice sounded distant and gargled, like he was trying to talk to her from the inside of a fish tank. The paper felt heavy as Ka flipped through her father's files to the last one. The final mission that her father had been on. In the jungle of events and jargon, Ka found the words that described her dad's fate in a heartbeat. Separated in battle, Kiri Ninja sent him downstream in an ambush. Searched for him, body not found. His ninja continued to search for him, fled during the night. The paper was getting rained on. Tears streamed down Ka's face in thick globs. Her dad was dead. That's why he left them. That's why her mother got sad whenever she mentioned, Dad, my dad is dead. They never found his body. Akamaru placed his head on Ka's lap and looked up at his companion, a shared pain in his puppy eyes. Ka could hear his heartbeat as Naruto took her into an awkward hug, her face half buried in his orange jacket. He smelled so much like her father. That lingering scent of sweat and earth that blended together to form a scent that was uniquely Nar. He smelled like an alpha. Nar couldn't help but try to read the file that had brought Ka to her knees. A lot of it was technical terms he didn't quite understand. A mission near the capital protecting a target. Kiri team's opposition. And then he read what Ka read. His ninja thought he was still alive. Ka nodded into Naruto's jacket. Nar took Ka's shoulders in his arms and pushed her to arm's length. She attempted to hide her face by looking at the ground. Nar ducked his head down and shook her shoulders roughly. Hey, Ka looked at him with red eyes. Akamaru is a ninkin and he seems pretty smart. So, If your dad's thought that he was still alive, then he must be alive. Akamaru barked in agreement. Ka knew they were offering her a false hope, a false sense of happiness. The same denial she now saw in her mother's actions. It seemed so appealing. Ka, I promise you, I'll help you find your dad. The certainty in his voice shocked Ka. It sent a tingle along her spine right behind her stomach. She liked that feeling. He's still out there, so you just have to believe it. Got it. Don't give up yet. Ha looked at Naruto in awe. She knew she shouldn't believe him. She knew that he was promising the impossible. Impossible seemed to be what Naruto specialized in. Okay. Nar. Nar smiled at her with a brightness in his eyes. Oh, so that's why Hinata liked him. 4x Ka insisted that they do the painting mission. It was their pride as shinobi that was on the line. She refused to have a mark on her record that she failed ad rank mission. That was a blemish that she could not live with. In order to make things go quickly, Nar created far more clones than necessary. They had more Narutos than they did brushes. Nar watched as Ka slowly painted a small section of the fence. She was simply going through the motions. A passive, not quite frown was etched onto her face. At least she wasn't crying anymore. She was ugly when she cried. Hey, Ka. Nar smiled as startled Kba out of her thoughts. Before she could ask what he wanted, Naruto took his brush and booped Ka on the nose with it. Her nose was suddenly wet. Ka twisted her nose as though she was about to sneeze. You bastard. What the hell was that for? Ka's own brush flailed wildly, splattering paint all around. She took an aggressive step forward. I knew it, Nar said smugly, not backing down from Ka's challenging glare. His jacket was often safe. He was ready to get dirty. Blue totally isn't your color. That was a girl thing, right? Ka looked at Nar like he was brain dead as she tried to process what he just said. What are you? So quit being so blue. Ka blushed at that. Nar could have just said she was being a downer. He didn't need to do something. So Nar. She took her brush and flung it at Nar multiple times, pelting him with droplets of blue paint. You're right. It looks better on you. Naruto's retaliation came from behind. Two of the nearby clones began to use their brushes like whips to shoot large globs of paint at Ka. Paint got in her hair. The hair that she had been taking care of ever since Naruto had complimented it. Sure, she didn't comb it today, but now it was blue. A few drops of paint managed to snake down her spine and caused Ka to flinch. She glared at Naruto hard as he just smiled at her like the biggest idiot on the planet. So that's how you want to play, is it? Kba asked with danger in her voice. In one motion, she grabbed a paint can. Before Naruto could protest, Ka began to spin violently, turning into a blue tornado as blue paint went flying everywhere. Not a single clone was spared, and the fence was completely covered in an uneven coating. At least it was painted. Nar smiled underneath his blue paint mask Ka had given him. After shaking off as much paint as he could, Naruto finally opened his eyes. Ka was a sight to behold. Her hair was now a wild twister of blue paint. Her own attack had covered her with just as much paint as everything else. With her hands on her hips, she looked at Naruto with a satisfied smile. Who's blue now? With his now blue shirt, Nar looked up and down at Kba's paint-covered form. She had done more to herself than he did. Nar could only give Ka a cheeky grin. Both of us. A thick blush crept onto Ka's face that clashed with the blue paint that was splattered across her person. She really went too far. Their eyes met. They both looked completely ridiculous. Ka was the first to start laughing. Nar was quick to join her. The laughter came and went like the tide, growing in intensity whenever Kba or when they managed to open their eyes and get a good look at one another. Akamaru walked stiffly towards Ka completely covered in blue paint. He let out a soft whine. Ka's laughter came to a giggly stop. She had to be careful when she picked up Akamaru so as to not get any more paint on herself. With the last few giggles, Ka examined Akamaru, who gave her a pitiful look. Sorry, buddy, didn't mean for you to get caught in the crossfire. Looks like I'm going to have to give you a bath. Nar couldn't help but frown at the situation. Hades' teasing had actually given Nar the idea to ask Ka out for ramen once they were finished with the missions. But now because of the blue puppy they were going to be parting ways. Unless can I help? Ka bit her lip. It would be bad if she took Naruto home. Especially with both of them being covered in paint. Yeah, sure. And if her mother or sister were home, she would have to sneak him in through the back. Wait, did she just agree to it without thinking it through? If the cheer of excitement Naruto let out was any indication, yes, she did. But it's not like I need your help or anything. 4x Nar was confused. Hey, Ka, Naro asked, poking the girl in the arm to try and get her attention. Ka had been staring at her home for a long time now. Just glaring at it. What? Ka attempted to yell and whisper at the same time. She had almost jumped out of her skin when Naruto poked her. She was expecting it to be her mother or sister. Maybe even one of the Ninken or other members of her clan. Nar looked around, examining the brush that they were hiding in. Why are we hiding in a bush? Yes, Ka, why are you hiding in the bush? Both young teens jumped at the deep growl of a voice that echoed from behind them. Their heads snapped to see who had found them. A large wolf-like dog sat calmly behind them. An eye patch covered his right eye, and his coat was black on top with a white bottom. And why is the pup blue? Naruto let out a shocked gasp and pointed at the dog like it was some kind of ghost. It can talk. Oh, hey Kurumaru, is mom or sis in? Ka asked. If she acted like she didn't do anything wrong, then she wasn't doing anything wrong. Nar got paint on him and I didn't want mom to find out. Nar looked like he had just been thrown to the wolves. Kurumaru gave the two a quick sniff. I see. So that's how it is. The great wolf stood up slowly and turned away with a patient ease. Your mother went shopping. Hana is still at the clinic, so you have reign of the den for now. Ka gave her mother's companion a deep bow and grabbed Naruto's hand quickly before Kurumaru changed his mind. If Kurumaru didn't say anything, it meant that he was okay with it. Probably. It turned out that Ka did need Naruto's help washing Akamaru. As smart and as calm as Akamaru was, there was a deep fear of taking a bath that Akamaru unfortunately inherited. Bathing Akamaru was also a loud process as the pup switched from whining about getting wet to barking and attacking the water. Nar was hanging into the tub, holding onto the dog firmly. Ka was doing her best to get all of the water onto Akamaru and not onto Nar. Something that was funny at first had since lost its humor. Hey, it's okay, Akamaru. It's just water, Nar said, cheerfully. His own slightly blue hair was damped from splash damage. See, I'm wet and it doesn't hurt any. Akamaru acknowledged the blonde by attempting to bite out of his bonds. It wasn't a hard bite, and it stopped as soon as Akamaru touched the flesh. It was just a nip. Ka smiled at how well Naruto and her best friend got along. Anybody else would likely be bleeding and needing stitches in their hand. The two applied a generous amount of shampoo to Akamaru. You're almost done, buddy. Just a little bit longer. Yay, just got to bubble you up. Nar began to happily rub the shampoo while maintaining a firm grip on Akamaru. At many points during the wash, Akamaru had a mohawk or some other weird fur style. Akamaru had given up on life at this point and simply stood there, giving Ka a deep pleading look to just end it already. The door slammed open and Ka began to share Akamaru's sentiment. Soon stood in the doorway, a feral look in her eyes. The room went silent. Even Akamaru stopped his whining. Soon took in the sight before her. The paint-spattered look of her daughter and Nar. The currently wet, miserable, and ever so slightly blue Akamaru. Looked like a wild date. She was honestly quite happy to see her daughter spending time with the brat. But it was a mother's duty to torment her children. Both of you wash up. Dinner is in 15 minutes. The door slams shut. Silence persisted as Naruto and Ka turned to look at one another. So Naruto began in an attempt to break the silence. That's your mom. Ka nodded as her mind revved up for full-on freakout mode. Everything came to a crashing conclusion in her mind. Her mother was home. Nar had to leave. Quick, get out of here. Nar found himself being pulled up to his feet, allowing Akamaru to run free. Hey, wait, what? Is your mom that scary? Yes, there was no hesitation in that response. KBA opened the window and attempted to usher Naruto out of it. Reality caught up to Ka with half of Naruto sticking out of her window. Wait, no, mom invited you to dinner. You can't run, but you really should. Nar yelled when he was pulled back violently through the small bathroom window. Stay, go, which is it? Nar complained, standing up to look Ka in the eyes. Ka bit her lip again. She didn't want to have an awkward dinner with Naruto and her family. That wasn't something that should happen until he was her boyfriend. Not that she ever wanted him to be her boyfriend, but she also didn't want him to leave yet, only because if he left now, her mother would be furious and hunt Naruto down and force him to eat dinner. Or worse, Ka sat down on the side of the tub and let her head sink. I don't know. Not for the first time. Nar wondered if it was a good time to touch Ka. Even when he hugged her earlier, he wasn't certain if he should have done that. It was weird touching a girl. She jumped when he placed his hand on her shoulder. Do you want me to leave? Ha's head snapped at Naruto and a deep frown appeared on her face. No. She saw Naruto's smile grow wide. But not because I want you to stay. I'm just not the boss of you, so you should do what you want. Then I'm staying for dinner. Akamaru chose that moment to walk in front of the two teens. Naruto and Ka swore that they saw Akamaru give them a smug smile. Then the dog began to dry himself in a very dog-like fashion. There was a pungent sense of awkwardness that lingered like a burnt home-cooked meal. With a grin that was nearly ear, Hana sat on her side of the table. Try as she might, she couldn't be mad at her little sister for being the first one to bring home a guy to have dinner with them. Not when her darling little sister looked like a strawberry with blue seeds. And Ka's little friend squirmed whenever anybody looked at him. So both of the young genin jumped at Hana's voice. She feasted on the awkwardness the two were feeling like a dog would on the marrow of a bone. Why so blue? Hana gave herself a mental pat on the back for the cleverness. The redness of Ka's face hadn't gone down since she first sat down next to Nar on their family's small table. She wrinkled her nose at Hana for the lame joke, as though the smell offended her before pointing at Nar. He said that earlier. It's not her color, Nar mumbled. His eyes flickered to Hana's and then Kba before he continued to stare at the interesting plain tablecloth. A loud snort came from the kitchen. Some had heard them. Apparently, Hana huffed and ignored the rising sense of shame that came from her own lame joke. So, why are both of you painted? Ka smiled at the thought and was about to answer. Someone grabbed the rice. Soon yelled from the kitchen. Nar shot up like a rocket, nearly knocking over the chair he was sitting on. Ayame's lessons included helping people in the kitchen if they asked it. I got it. Nar and Soon passed each other. Some carried with her a large pot that was giving off a lot of steam. On the counter, Pup Soon gestured to the large pot with her chin. Some all but slammed the pot down on the small table, a proud look on her face. In her professional opinion, as a mother and housewife, her children and Naruto were in for a treat tonight. In one dramatic motion Soon made a show of revealing the night's meal. An explosion of steam filled the area, followed quickly the thick meat aroma. Inside the pot, simmering lightly in its still bubbling juices, was a hearty beef stew. The hot scent of ginger blended perfectly with the rich beefy aroma that clashed in battle for fragrant dominance. Where the beef was strong and powerful, the ginger was subtle and fine. All three Inuka inhaled deeply, allowing their enhanced sense of smell to take in the mouthwatering scent. And then Nar ruined it. He came in like a hurricane. He was clutching the hot pot of rice on the bottom like an idiot as he made a mad rush for the table. Hoda tadada. Naruto fired off in rapid yelps. Before some could snarl at the boy for not using the oven mitts that sat on top of the pot he just carried in before Hana could so much as smile, Ka acted. Both of her hands slammed down onto the table. You idiot, Ka growled. She snatched Naruto's hands quickly. I knew you were stupid, but did you really not see the oven mitts? She spared a sharp glance at the red tenderness of Naruto's burnt hands. He needed water on them. With a firm hand, Ka marched Nar into the kitchen where she plunged his hands into the water. For Nar, the physical pain vanished quickly. It didn't really even hurt to begin with. It was just really hot. But the embarrassment would last for a while. And then there was Ka, who in her own way was showing concern for him. Sorry, Ka, I didn't want to make your mom mad. Ka eyes fixated onto Naruto's dopey lopsided grin that he was trying to give her. You dumbass. Nobody is going to be mad if you ask for help. It's just a family dinner. Yay, but it's my first one. Ka inhaled sharply through her nose, unintentionally getting another sniff of the beef stew. This was Naruto's first family dinner because he didn't have a family. How could she have forgotten such an important fact about Nar? Yay, well, don't make a big deal about it. Okay. Nar nodded happily and accepted the towel Ka gave him. Does it hurt? Ka asked, ignoring that growing sense of hunger in her stomach. Though the hunger pains palled compared to the sudden itchiness she was feeling in her hands. An itch only Naruto could scratch. She thought back on the day she reacted so badly to finding her father's folder. And Naro, who had no family, comforted her without a second thought. Nor did he make it about him. Nar proudly presented his callous hands towards Ka. They were clean and no redness from any burns. They looked like perfectly normal Naruto hands. Nope, I'm good. Ka blushed at her apparent overreaction. Good. Wouldn't want you to be beaten by a hot pot. That wouldn't be good for my reputation. Once again, Ka grabbed Naruto by the wrist and led him to the table. Took you too long enough. Hana let out a bark of laughter. I bet you did more than kiss his boo-boo better. Hana's revelry was cut short by the single grain of rice that smacked her hard in the forehead. OW, that hurt. Not sparing her immature elder daughter a glance, soon focused on her own meal, heartily scarfing down globs of meat and rice. Put a muzzle on it. We have a guest over for dinner. Any attempt at grumbling was cut short by a dangerous look from some. Hana could only gulp and give her sister and that blonde boy dirty looks. What was the point of having a little sister if she couldn't tease them to death? Fine. Still red-faced from Hana's teasing, Ka and Nar sat down at the table with an awkward shuffle to their seats. After bumping into each other several times to get their share of food, Ka snapped. You idiot. Ka grabbed Naruto's bowl from his hands, filled it with rice, and piled on a giant pile of meat before serving herself. There, now eat. Some chuckled lightly before getting seconds. Or was it thirds? Eat as much as you want, brat. There's more than enough. She watched the blonde's eyes light up as he tasted her cooking. Something told Some that her daughter would be needing cooking lessons soon enough. The comfortable silence of people stuffing their faces quickly grew awkward for the motormouths in the group. Some especially needed some form of chatter. So Nar, I heard you beat Ka in the Chunin exams. Some did enjoy the frown that was etched on her youngest's face. Why don't you tell us exactly what happened? Just my fight with Ka. Nar asked, setting his bowl down. Some's food was good, almost as good as Ikiruka's. We want the whole story. Half pint. Hana smiled at the grumpy look Naruto adopted. Nar crossed his arms and pouted. I'm not that short. You're shorter than me. Ka pointed out with a budding smile. It was true. She was taller than Nar, although only just barely. But ignore. I want to know more about your exams, too. Nar proved to be an apt storyteller, something that was enhanced by his recent time with Jiraiya. With just the right flair for the dramatic, Naruto waved his arms as he began to tell the story of the Chunin exams. He started with the written exam. Did you really pass that test without writing down a single answer? Soon slapped her hand down on the table, a jovial smile on her face. Ka frowned. Nar was certainly a lucky idiot, it seemed. Even their fight was largely luck. A tingle went up her spine as she remembered that horrible smell. She glared at Nar. At least there was no trace of that foul odor in his normal scent. She felt her ears grow red as husky scent of Nar began to overpower the beef stew. She wondered if Hana or her mother could smell it. She needed a distraction. Of course, a loser like you wouldn't be able to answer any of those questions. Nar frowned and returned Ka's glare with a low growl of his own. Oh yeah, well, how many questions did you answer? Nar pointed a free finger right in Kabia's face. Ka swatted Naruto's finger away. When it came back in her face a second time, she swatted it again. The third time she bit at it, a part of her wondered if Nar tasted as good as he smelled. That part was taken around back and put down. I answered all of them. Ka said proudly. She got them all wrong. Some spoke like a wolf that waited for its back to join in. Before Ka could protest, Hana spoke. That's not all. You were 1 mark away from getting tossed out for cheating. Hana joined her mother as they circled around Ka. Then they leapt for the kill. Did you not notice the two of us in the examination room? The reality of her failure became apparent as each word was a blow to Ka's ego. The weight of it all forced her head down and caused her shoulders to slump due to the depression she found herself in. Desperation to get some kind of coolness factor filled Ka. Well, my team was the second one to the tower. Hana snorted. That's because you had Shino on your team who set up a trap before the bell rang. Technically not cheating, but you didn't really help with that now, did you? Nar let out a fake scream. Man, I wish I would have known we could do that. I would have totally sent in some shadow clones to set up a bunch of traps. What did happen to your team during the forest? You guys looked roughed up. Ka's curiosity only grew as Nar shivered. Nar began slowly as he retold the days in the forest. They shrieked in horror when he told them about his time in the snake's stomach. They cheered when he told them how he busted out of it. Their bowls slowly began to rest on the table as they began to eat up Naruto's story. When Ka heard what Naruto said to Sasuke, she couldn't help but cheer. Hell yeah. But the temperament was immediately hushed when Nar began to tell of his brief encounter with that snake bastard. As he held me by my throat, he did something with his hand and this weird purple flames appeared on his fingers and he slammed it into my stomach. I passed out after that and when I woke up, I couldn't really feel my chakra. Naruto explained, trying to mimic the fight scene by struggling against his own grip. Tsune's frown deepened. She had been one of the trackers to try and find Orochimaru after that incident. But that technique sounded familiar. Sounds like the 5 elements seal. Ka let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. What's that? Some smile at the fond memories quickly soured. It was a technique a friend of mine invented. It forms a tight seal around one of chakra gates. It sends people's chakra control down the drain. Tsune paused, hoping none of them were going to ask who that friend was. Truth be told, she wasn't really paying attention during the super secret Nar meeting. Did you ever get it removed? Nar nodded happily. Yay, The pervy sage removed it for me when I was training with him. Who was your friend? That was the question wanted to avoid. Surely, as long as she didn't scream out that it was his mother, everything would be okay. Her name was Kasha, and she passed away years ago. The gears in Ka's head began to turn. Wait a minute. She slammed her hands down on the table, causing the empty bowls to rumble. Do you mean to tell me that you beat me with a seal on you that makes it hard for you to do jutsu? She got right up in Naruto's face, daring him to say that the only reason why she did so well against him was because of some stupid seal that she needed a handicap just to stand on the same level with him. Nar maintained eye contact with Ka for as long as he could before he finally wilted under her fiery gaze. What? No. Nar stammered, trying to figure out what to say to get Ka to stop trying to set him on fire with her eyes. She was scarier than Sakura when mad. What did Jiraiya say when a woman is mad? Give them a compliment. You're really pretty when you're mad. It wasn't even a lie. Ka's face ignited like a firework, instantly blooming into a rich crimson blush. She once again found herself flustered over something stupid Nar was saying. He thought she was pretty. When she was mad, why was she mad again? Something about Nar. Was she mad at Nar? Yes. The burning red on her face melted away into pure raw anger. Nar was trying to weasel out of it by telling her she was pretty. You idiot! Ka yelled out as she harshly met Naruto's stupid smile. That stupid everything is going to be okay smile that he seemed to give everybody. The smile changed when she called him an idiot. That stupid idiotic smile changed into something she had never seen before. It was still a smile. It was still stupid, but it was only for her. That stupid idiot had a smile that was only for her. Suck it, Sakura. Wait, what? Soon watched as her daughter went through wave after wave of emotions. It was so much like her and Tahiro. No matter how hot-headed she got, no matter how stubborn idiotic she was being, he would simply give her a smile and a few words and everything would seem better. And it appeared that Nar had her daughter down to a T. After a few moments of sputtering and twisting emotion, Ka wordlessly sat down. She maintained a stubborn scowl out of principle, something that was immediately directed at Hana. The older sister opened her mouth. KBA's scowl was that of an angry puppy that promised poop in her shoes. Hana met the scowl with a challenging glare. Oh, if her sister wanted to play that game, Hana could, too. With the snap of her eyebrows, Hana looked right at Nar with her elbow on the table and her hand cupping her chin. Hana entered one of her perfected poses. Why don't you tell us about your fight with Ka? Naruto. Nar looked at Hana, then at Ka, then at Hana, then at Ka, then at then at Ka. Go ahead, Ka said through her teeth. She knew what her sister was doing, trying to make her look bad. She hated the way Hana was trying to not only belittle her in front of Nar, but also flirt with him at the same time. Tell them how you beat me, Nar. I choose life, Nar said flatly. Whatever was happening between Ka and her sister was something Nar wanted no place in. And you and Akamaru were tough. Naru finally noticed a lack of actual canine. Wait, where is Akamaru? The dogs eat with the pack on Saturday night. Soon scrapped the bottom of the stew, getting a few scraps of congealed meat stew. It's a bonding thing. She waved her hand around in a circle like it would help explain everything. Nar could only let out an "oh," at that. Soon spared her daughters a glance. They were glaring at each other. Ka with a red-faced glare of pure anger and frustration directed at Hana. And Hana returned the glare with just as much venom. Soon let out a sigh. Why don't you tell us what happened after your fight before I end up with one less daughter? Nar looked at the two girls and for a moment could have sworn he saw sparks flying. Oh, right. So, after they took Ka away, it was time for Hinata and Ne to fight. A hush fell over Ka as she heard that. She knew that Neji hurt Hinata badly. If that bastard hadn't have hurt Hinata so bad, she might have been able to actually do something when the sound invaded instead of just sleeping on the floor like a useless idiot. Nar fought a sand monster while she laid face down in the dirt. Once again, Naruto held his audience captive as he went over the fight between Hinata and Ne. As he progressed into his training with Jiraiya, there were snickers of some of the things that happened. A few whoops and jeers. He told them how he saved Akamaru and summoned his first toad larger than a tadpole. They gasped when he told them that Jiraiya threw him off the cliff a few days later. When me and Ne got blowback, I knew that he wasn't going to go down that easy, so I had to think quick. Nar had the chair on his head as he spoke, a clone sitting on top of it, doing its best to look dead. So, I made a clone quickly and had it take my place while I dug under the ground. And then right when that bastard thought he was the winner, I punched him. With a mock punch, the clone disappeared and Nar stood as the victor. Soon's smile widened at that. Way to go, brat. Wish I had been there to see it. Yay, I missed the end of it, Ka said with a light blush. Better than my Tunan exams, Hana said simply. You see, I was up against a nobody cares, Hana. Ka interrupted. Besides, your stories are so boring. Some could only nod in agreement. Why do you two always gang up on me? Hana wed. Because you can dish it, some said automatically. But you can't take it, Ka finished with a giggle. Even Nar chuckled slightly at the scene. 4x. It was dark by the time some kicked Nar out, and Nar couldn't help but thank her for the meal over and over again. Sun's cooking might not be as good as Ikyaku's, but it was a strong second place. Certainly better than Tsunami's. Ka smiled as she walked Naruto out of the clan grounds, using the proper entrance this time. It had been a good day, even with how uncertain she was about her father's fate. At this point, her largest frustration was Nar, specifically his hand. It kept brushing against hers. The pace they had set was a slow, comfortable one, as they simply enjoyed a silence that was interrupted by a few words only to return to a silence again until finally they reached the end of their path. Well, here we are. Ka flapped her arm in a helpless attempt to point at the exit they were currently standing in. Nar could only scratch his head. Yeah, he had had a great time today. Doing missions with Ka was a lot better than doing them with Kakashi and Sasaki. And today proved to be a good way to get his mind over what happened at the hospital with Sasaki, but mostly he was just happy to spend time with Ka. Ka bit her lip, not certain what she should say at the moment. On the one hand, she wanted to hang out with Nar more, but it was already so late. Maybe she should skip out on doing dishes and go on a nighttime adventure with Nar. A chill went up her spine. No, skipping dishes would be a quick way to a shallow grave. Well, good night. Ka gave Nar her best smile. Nar watched as Ka turned to leave. He needed to say something. He didn't want to have to wait another month to hang out with her again. Are you free tomorrow? Ka froze and burned. Nar froze, his heartbeat going faster than his brain, so his mouth took over. We can train and have a sparring match and stuff. Ka let out a sigh of relief. She wasn't ready for Naruto to ask her out yet. Not that she even wanted him to. Yay, I should be. Meet you at the academy. Yay, at 1, so we can sleep in. Nar added quickly. Ka smirked at Nar, folding her arms over her chest. Don't think I'm going to go easy on you. I wouldn't have it any other way. 4x. The dishes were a silent, miserable task. Only the clanging of the pots and the swishing of the water. It had always been that way since he left. Soon would just silently do the dishes while one of her daughters helped her. For the sisters, it had been a mystery for many years why her mother's temperament was so different during the dishes. And trying to avoid it was ill-advised. Hey, Mom, Ka said, finally breaking the dry silence between them. She placed the now dry plate with the others. It took some a while to respond, and when she did, it was a low and quiet. She didn't even look at her daughter. Her eyes distant while her body went on autopilot. I found Dad's file today. The pot Sum was scrubbing fell down into the water with a large splash. Sum's face snapped to her daughter's a horrified look on her face. Why do you lie? Sum erupted into a mad frenzy. Tears instantly mixed with the dirty dishwater that had splashed on her face. He's not dead. Okay, he's not Dia. They never found his body, and Roamaru would have come back if he was dead. But they're still missing. Okay. Her fingers dug into Ka's shoulders. She shook her poor daughter with every word. Finally, after years of keeping bottled up, she could let it out. Ka felt her own eyes begin to water up. I know, Mom, I know. Ka smiled at her mother. It was the same smile Naruto gave her when she found out. Me and Nar are going to find him and bring him back. Okay. The hug that soon gave her daughter was all that needed to be said. Ka returned the hug instantly and simply stood there for a long moment in her mother's embrace. Wordlessly, the two went back to doing the dishes. A bright smile on both of their faces. Hey, Mom, can Nar eat with us again next week? Soon turned and looked at her daughter. The tears still stained her face. But Ka didn't trust that smile. Sure, but you have to help cook. For 2 weeks, the cycle continued. Nar and Ka would meet up on Saturday, do a few extra missions. Naruto would join the Inuzuka family dinner, and then they would meet up on Sunday to train until they dropped. The time was mostly spent beating the tar out of each other, but it was still training. So, it came as no surprise to Sununade when the rambunctious duo barreled into her office on Saturday. She had actually planned for them to show up. Naruto froze in the door. He examined the room filled with other people. That was probably a sign that he had probably just interrupted something. There were Sununade and Shizune behind the Hokage desk. Sasaki in an incredibly red Hinata stood to the left. The first, a girl in rich formal clothes. She had deep red hair that looked like the ocean at storm. To Naruto, she looked like a porcelain doll. The other, a boy to her left, stood tall, probably taller than Jiraiya. He was dressed in much more comfortable clothes than his counterpart. He had short, messy black hair, and his gaze was that of a thunderous beast. He carried a large pole arm under his arm. Before Nar could open his mouth, Ka's face appeared next to his, and she attempted to struggle her way in. Nar turned to look at Ka. She had been letting her hair grow out and had it down again today. It was a wild mess of chocolate brown that Nar wanted to touch, but he wanted to live more. Don't just sit there in the door, you underscore. Ha froze when she saw Hinata standing there next to Sasaki. Hinata's milk-white eyes were wide with shock at the scene. Hiba instantly felt like she had just betrayed her friend, like she had somehow been caught cheating with Nar. Not that it was like that, right? Clapped her hands. She always enjoyed it when Nar got put in his place. It had become something to look forward to on Saturday, watching the two young lovers awkwardly shuffle around each other in a vague attempt to be as close as possible without actually being in a relationship. Oh, good, Sununade said excitedly. Hawk. These two are going to be part of the escort as well. The tall blue-eyed young man looked rather disappointed at the two genin that had fallen into the office. It was Sasaki that spoke. Really? You're going to send Naruto and Ka on this mission? He asked with a roll of his eyes. They have the biggest mouths in Konoha. Sununade met Sasaki's eyes with a sharp glare and a wicked smile. If you want, I could send Sakura Arino with you instead. Any protest from Sasaki was silenced in an instant. Wait, what's going on? Naruto asked, completely confused on what was going on. And who are these two? He pointed to Hawk and the girl. And what are Sasuke and Hinata doing here? Sununade gestured to the girl and Hawk with an open palm. This is Princess Yona. She's the daughter of the daimyo and she requires an escort to the capital. The girl stomped her feet. I know daddy likes to use you ninjas for literally anything, but I really don't need an escort. It's just over the mountain pass. Hawk and I can. The tall man flicked the girl in the nose and she yelped in pain. Hawk ignored the glares of the princess. It doesn't matter. Besides, these ninja have to head to the capital anyway to attend your party anyways. Ka felt a great deal of sympathy for Yona. That flick looked like it hurt, and she hated it when people flicked her nose. What's your party for, Princess Yona? There might have been a bit of spite in her voice. It was because this was the daughter of the woman that had that horrible cat, Tora. And not because Naruto was staring at Yona. She didn't care who Naruto liked. Not one bit. Yona frowned and wrinkled her nose in disgust. It's my 16th birthday, so my father is holding a party to try and find a match for me. He decided that me having a ninja husband would be a good idea or something. Smiled and rolled her eyes. It wasn't like she had shown the current daimyo respect in their youth. At least Jiraiya had more tact than to say she had very beautiful and that they should get married. And the rude little punk is Hawk, her personal bodyguard. He will be your commander for the escort mission. Hawk managed to get out, and indignant little Nar immediately pointed a finger at Hawk and shouted, Hey, Granny, what gives? Why does he get to lead us? He's not even a ninja. The icy glare that gave Naruto was one that he would not soon forget. Because brat, he's an adult and his full-time job is to make sure that Yona is safe. Why does he get to call you Granny? But you dropkick me whenever I call you Ansunade. A dead silence fell over the room when Hawk asked that question. A scroll slammed into Hawk's head with nearly enough force to knock him down. Had one leg up on her desk and was glaring at Hawk like she was ready to fight him. Because we're cousins, you little punk, she yelled, and some of her hair fell into her face. Hawk rubbed his now very red forehead. The Kona leaf now branded in the center. Okay, fine. That's what I thought. Huffed out and straightened her jacket, sitting down. Now then, the four of you will be guarding Yona on her way to the capital. Once there, Naruto and Ka, you were to wait for Sasaki and Hinata to complete their mission before you for all return. It was Nar who spoke up once again. Not that Ka was far behind as her mouth was already slightly open. What gives? Why does Sasaki get a special mission? Sasaki glared at Naruto before he gave a deep sigh. Nar was not somebody that he would have picked for this mission to avoid a political marriage. Hinata will be acting like my girlfriend during the party so I don't get forced into anything. Hinata turned crimson at that. Out of all the people, she had to be on this mission with Nar. She wouldn't mind terribly much if she was on this mission with Naruto alone, however. But then there was the fact that Ka was there, too. Why not have Sakura or Enino be your date instead? Ka asked. If one of those girls were Sasuke's fake girlfriend, then they'd actually act like a girlfriend. And if it was Sakura and she actually ended up as Sasuke's girlfriend, then that would be less competition for Naruto's affection. Not for Ka, for Hinata. There was just no way that Ka would ever see Naruto as anything more than a friend after all. Sasaki visibly shivered at that question. Could you imagine one of them acting like my girlfriend? I honestly wouldn't put it past them to use it as blackmail to stay as my girlfriend. The three other genin could only nod in agreement, but Nar still folded his arms in frustration. Still though, you sure you're okay with this, Hinata? Hinata let out a small squeak when Nar addressed her directly. She began to fiddle with her fingers directly in front of her chest. Well, when Sasaki asked me to I could see why he asked me. Ka crossed her arms and huffed. Well, why not me? If it was a mission, I'd do it. There was a clear silence in the room. Ka blinked. Wait, is there something wrong with me? When she received no immediate response, she stomped over to Sasaki and glared at him hard. You don't think I'd be a good girlfriend? She let out a deep growl. She might not want to be anybody's girlfriend. She might not like all that girly stuff, but she sure as hell could do that stuff. Sasaki met Ka's glare and did not flinch. Ka, you are not somebody I would bring to a royal party. Alright, enough chatting. Southgate 20 minutes ago. Get out of my office. Command was absolute as even Hawk jumped at the authority. I got other ninja that need missions. Nar gave Ka a pat on the back as they made their way out of the room. Hey, don't sweat it. You're just too wild for a fancy party. And I prefer wild to Ka. Being called wild was like music to her ears and she desperately hoped Hinata was tone deaf at that moment. 4x. It came to no surprise to Sasaki that Naruto was instantly able to start a conversation with both Hawk and Princess Yona. And he was quite happy with how Ka was happily talking to Hinata, which left him alone to think and actually do their job of making certain that the princess arrived at the capital alive. It also left him with the ability to muse that Ka was a girl. Who knew? But what on earth was that growling noise he heard every so often? It wasn't Akamaru. The dog continued to shift positions between sleep on Ka, walking, being carried by Nar, and walking again. And if it was an animal, it would have stopped once they were past it. Animals don't growl when they stalk someone. Sasaki watched while Naruto told of their fight with Gar. Hawk looked impressed while Yona continued to clap her hands in excitement. While it wasn't Naruto's only story, it was the one he felt less awkward about. Sasaki wondered if he should spoil Naruto's fun. It would be so easy to mention the cat Tora. You know, Nar, you'd make a fine man someday, Yona said offhandedly. If you want, you could come to the capital and help me rule one day. The entire group froze. That almost sounded like a marriage proposal. Nar was completely unfazed by this. No, I need to stay in Konoha. I'm going to be Hokage. After all, Hawk nearly tripped. For years, Yona had said romantic things like that. She didn't mean them to be romantic. Hawk was fairly certain that the woman didn't have a single romantic bone in her body. Maybe you should marry him, he said with a smile. He seems to be the only one as romantically oblivious as you. Sasaki looked around. There was that growl again. He managed to locate its source this time, however, and surprisingly enough, it was Ka with a glare that could frighten death. Ka growled at Naruto and Yona. Hinata with a face flushed in shock was wisely taking steps away from Ka. Ka, you're growling. The growl and the glare came to a hard stop. Ka shook her head as though she had just come out of a daze. What? No, I'm not. Sasaki just rolled his eyes. Whatever. Just stop growling when Yona flirts with Nar. Ka bristled. Why would she care who flirts with Nar? It's not like they were dating or anything. The only reason she would care that anybody flirted with Naruto was if it was Hinata. And she wouldn't growl at that. She would be happy, right? Why would I growl if somebody flirted with that idiot? Because you're jealous. With that, Sasaki attempted to ignore them all again. Ka froze. There was no way that Naruto could make her jealous. At least not like that. Sure, she would be mildly upset if he ever decided to go with somebody else for missions on Saturday, but that was just because missions with Nar were fun and quick. It was a great way to earn a bit of extra money. But she was most certainly not jealous if Nar liked somebody else. She grit her teeth together. No, I'm not. Hinata began slowly. She poked her fingers together and avoided eye contact at all costs. I think you are jealous too. Hinata's eyes flickered to KBA and she let out a soft gasp. It's okay if you like and Naruto as well. It was barely more than a whisper. Those words hit Ka harder than Nar did in their match. Hinata just told her that it was okay to like Nar. Hinata just told her that she liked Nar. There was no way that that was possible. As a friend, sure Naruto was an absolute blast to be around. He was fun and exciting and kind of not annoying and pretty funny and sort of kind of cute. Wait, no, she did not just think that. There was no way that she would ever consider anything other than a puppy cute. Boys just didn't do that for her. Sure, who cared if Nar smelled nice, but that was just because he was some kind of alpha thing that her mother still wouldn't explain. And what did it matter if Nar probably thought that she was cute, too? He even said as much. He liked her laugh, but that was no good reason to start liking him back. Right. Akamaru's survival instincts kicked in. Nar looked to be a much safer place to be than in Kiba's sweater at the moment. He dropped to the ground and made a quick dash towards Nar. There was just absolutely no way in hell that Ka could ever like Nar in that way. Not now, not ever. And the whole world needed to know. They needed to know that no matter what it looked like, there was just no way that she liked Naruto. You're growling again, Sasaki complained. He may as well have used a fire jutsu on a straw house. Heya glared at Sasaki. She glared at Akamaru. The bastard was snuggled between Naruto's arms and leaning into Yona's outreached hand. She glared at Nar and glared at Yona. The air felt charged and heavy. There was no build-up, no fanfare. Ka exploded. Violently. There is no way that I like Nar. Her voice cracked. There is no way that I could like somebody so stupid, so idiotic, so dumb, so short. He's the biggest loser in the entire village. He is absolutely the worst possible ninja to ever become a genin in Konoha, and there is no way in hell he is ever going to be the Hokage ever, so why on earth would I ever consider liking him? He's just nothing but a giant short wannabe loser. She clenched her hands into fists at her sides and shook. So no, I don't like Nar. I never did. I never will. Not now. Not ever. I will never like Nar. For a long moment, the only sound in the group was KBA's deep huffs as she struggled to reel in her anger. All eyes were on her, watching her as she shook and quivered and raged. All eyes except Naruto's. Gnarly stared down at Akamaru's head as he scratched the behind dog's ears. He said nothing, did nothing. Ha needed Naruto to look her in the eyes. She wanted him to start an argument with her to make it all a game, to make it lighter somehow. It would have hurt less if he yelled back at her, but Nar turned and continued to walk along the path. Yona was quick to join him. Are you sure she's your friend? Those words stung. Not nearly as much as Naruto's silence, but still they stung. Ka clutched at her heart. The realization of what she had just said slammed into her. She felt that same hollow emptiness as when she read her father's file. This time there was no Naruto to cheer her up. Nar would be fine, right? He was tough, right? He didn't hold a grudge, right? Hinata just stared at Ka, a look of sheer disappointment on her face. Ka, there was a firmness in that simple word that made Ka wsece. Hinata, kind, gentle, Hinata, who saw the best in everybody, was disappointed in her. She bit her lip and grabbed her arm. She let out a small shudder. The world felt colder. She messed up big time. 4x. They stayed at an inn that night. Sasaki shared a room with Nar. Yona was with Hawk. There was a needless explanation of the fact Hawk was not in the bed with her. That left Hinata and Ka to share a room. For a pair of friends who had risked their lives for the other, the room was just a silent reminder that Ka had gone too far. Twice Ka tried to eat. She tried to enjoy the simple smell of the meat on the table in the inn's kitchen. She tried to enjoy the taste. It certainly smelled good. It certainly tasted good and looked good, but she didn't feel like eating. Nar wasn't there when they ate. This was the first Saturday in a while that she hadn't eaten with Nar. It felt hollow. Both Ka and Nar went to bed without food that night. Akamaru had stayed with Nar, and Ka silently curled up into a ball on her cold, hard cotton, did her best to ignore the salty tear that seemed to fall from her face. She couldn't blame Akamaru. She didn't want to sleep with herself either. 4x Ka woke up not certain if she had even fallen asleep last night. There was a grogginess in her every movement, else she was awake while her body was asleep. There was no energy in her movements. The only motivation she had to get out of bed was that she didn't like this bed. It wasn't her bed. It wasn't the bed she would snuggle into and just ignore the rising sun. She wanted Naruto to hug her again. After forcing down a food pill because she didn't trust her ability to eat anything else, Ka waited outside for the others. The pleasant sunshine from yesterday was replaced with a thick gray sky. It only served to complement Ka's current mood. It smelled like rain. Akamaru decided to be her lone company as the group made their way up the pass. For that, Ka was grateful. At least her dog would stick around her when she was being an absolute underscore. Ka could only focus on one thing as they walked. It was the one thing that she didn't want to focus on. That stupid orange jacket she had gone out of her way to find and repair. Nar still had it on. She noted with a small sliver of happiness that there were still blue specks of paint in random spots. She might not have given him the jacket, but she had fixed it. And if Nar still wore it, perhaps then she could fix what she had said. Ha noted that there was a sluggishness with Naruto's movements, that his responses to Yona's questions seemed less cheerful, that he failed to keep a smile on his face for very long. She had been put in a place where she could read Naruto's mood so easily. Nar had trusted her, and she failed at that horribly. It was all Yona's fault. If that stupid princess hadn't come to Konoha, if she didn't need an escort, if she didn't keep flirting with Naruto, then Ka wouldn't have said those things. It was all that stupid girl's fault. If only they were still back in Konoha. Ka would have woken up and gone to train with Nar to end up on the ground next to him. Both of them laughing and groaning at the same time. It was all her fault, though. It was all Ka's fault that she was such a stupid underscore. Who cared if Hinata and Sasaki thought she liked Nar? Nar was a great guy, and he smelled good, too. The cold mountain air caught Naruto's scent and dragged it towards Ka. It had changed since their first battle. There was still the smell of hard work that Ka doubted Naruto would ever be able to wash out. But there was also the now day-old scent of sunflower shampoo. The day-old scent of a spicy body wash. The scent of an alpha was stronger now. Nar was growing up. He wasn't as short as he used to be. Ka wanted to know how Nar would look if he grew as tall as Hawk. With the bite of her lips so hard, she nearly yelped in pain. Ka sighed. She needed to apologize to Nar. She needed to do more than apologize to Nar. She wanted him back as a friend. She wanted to talk with him. Something that was hard in its own way and easy in others. Maybe she could talk him into a tour of the capital with her while they waited for Sasuke's mission to complete. Just the two of them in the capital. The sky was darker now, heavy with thick, menacing gray clouds that swarmed and swirled high above them. To their right was the mountain that served as a natural defense for the capital, its peak stretching well into the clouds. Before them was a large wooden bridge that crossed a raging river. If Ka hadn't failed geography class, she would have probably known the name of the mountain, name of the river, and the name of the bridge. But she only knew the name of one bridge, and that was because it was named after Nar. Closing parenthesis. They were nearly over the bridge when the sky blossomed into a blinding light. The boom that followed sent Ka and Akamaru into another set of whimpers. Ka clutched onto one of the supporting pillars of the bridge while she held on tight to Akamaru. The death grip that Ka gave Akamaru calmed them down from the state of panic. It was all she could do to stop him from bolting away. "What are you doing?" Hawk asked. He looked halfway between offended and annoyed at the sight before him. Ka tried to respond, but a second flash sent her crying into the pillar again. She didn't even have the time to brace for the thunder. That one was close. "I can't stand thunderstorms," Ka shouted, eyes closed tight. "I hate them. I hate them. We're not too far from the inn." Yona's plea fell on deaf ears. "We need to hurry before it starts raining." Ha continued to hold on to the pillar. Out of everything in the world, thunderstorms were the only thing that truly terrified her. For a long moment, there was no thunder. She let go of her safety pole and stood on her feet. Her face was flushed with fright. "Let's hurry." "Okay." Akamaru barked in agreement. They made it over the bridge before another lightning strike flashed through the sky. KBA's screams of terror were immediately drowned out by how quick the thunder rolled. The lightning bolt had struck the side of the mountain and sent rocks flying with explosive force. Ka covered her ears with her hands and hunkered down around Akamaru. She had her eyes closed. She felt the ground shake as her heartbeat quickened. Another flash happened so close and so bright that Ka was still blinded by it with her eyes closed and head covered. The ground continued to shake. The mountainside gave way and rocks the size of houses began to fall down upon the group, one of which was on direct course with Ka. Nar did what he did best. Not think. Ka. His cry fell on deaf ears. He sprinted towards her. The boulder was in the lead. "Ka," he shouted again. With great effort, Naruto arrived in time to push Ka out of the way. Ka only saw bits of what happened as she was sent to the ground. She saw Nar push her. She saw a boulder hit him. She saw the boulder tumble down into the river. She didn't see Nar again. Nar had just saved her at the cost of his own safety. "Nar!" Ka shouted, even as another lightning strike lit up the sky like a fireworks display. "Nar!" she shouted again. There was no sign of him. The rain had started now. She couldn't smell him. His scent was lost with the river. There was no orange dot up there. Hinata's voice rang out through the clearing. Hinata pointed up the mountainside. "A man is casting a jutsu. There's 3 of them. We're under attack." Ka didn't care who said that. She glared up in the direction that Hinata pointed at. She ignored the lightning bolt that struck the bridge and sent splinters of flaming wood flying. She ignored the thunder. She only growled and gave Akamaru a soldier pill. Those bastards took her Nar away, and they would pay for that. A warm, wet gust of air blasted Naruto in the face. He tried to force himself to move, but all he could do was slowly groan. A second gust of the weirdly humid air drifted across his face, followed by another, then another. Naruto managed to open his eyes just long enough to see a giant pink tongue bearing down on his face. There was little he could do as a slow wet lip completely covered his face. Nar felt his spine tingle all the down to his feet. Glay. Nar groaned out and looked at the offending animal. It was a large brown almost red-furred dog. Its muzzle was gray from old age and it looked at Nar through a single intelligent brown eye. The other was covered with a red cloth that wrapped up and around its head, covering its right ear as well. The dog backed away from Naruto and sat proudly on his haunches. In an odd behavior, the animal took its paw and pounded on its chest as though attempting to clear its throat. R-O. No. Raw. The large dog barked out, taking the time to enunciate each word as clearly as it could. And then, despite its great age, it looked at Nar excitedly, its large bushy tail flapping against the side of the nightstand. Nar found himself in a neat, well-kept room. It was small, smaller than his own room by a decent amount, which was saying something. He was in the bed near the window, and a cursory look out the window told him it was already sunny outside. There was a door on the other side of the room, past the dog. His jacket was hung on a hook there. The dog barked again, far louder this time. No Ra. It glared at Nar. Sorry. Naruto's voice was rough and scratchy. I don't know what you're saying. Even after a few hours of practice with Akamaru, Nar just couldn't understand dog. The dog let out a sharp howl and fell to the ground in a depressed heap of fur. The theatrics only lasted a moment until the dog stood up suddenly and all but pranced over the nightstand where it grabbed something with its mouth. Nar watched as his headband was placed on the bed. Iruka's headband. In the short time Naruto had worn the thing had been put through the ringer. He'd put twice as much wear on it than Iruka ever did. Nar gripped the headband and tried to remember how he got here. There was the thunder. There was Ka screaming. Why was he upset at her? Oh, right. What she said. Those words cut deep. He thought she was his friend. He thought that he was starting to like her as more than a friend. No, he knew he did. But that's not why he saved her. He would have done the same for any leaf ninja, right? Naruto's head pulsed with a sharp pain. He tried to get to it with his fingertips, but found the area was covered in thick bandages. Who did doctor things to him? Was he back in Konoha? Was he at Ka's house again? He didn't remember this dog, but it was big enough. He remembered the boulder slamming into him. He remembered pushing Ka to safety. That was good. He hoped she was okay. Then there was blackness and water. A lot of water. He couldn't get his chakra to stick to it because of the rapids. Then there was more blackness. More water. A lot more water. And then he was here. The red dog placed a paw on the headband and whimpered. Nar looked at the headband again. He was on a mission. The mission. Was Ka okay? Did they make it back to the capital? Was Yona okay? What was with that freaky lightning? Nar leapt out of the bed and ignored the small amount of pain on his side with pride. He tied the headband around his head. Thanks for the help, boy. Nar rubbed the dog's good ear for a moment. But I need to get back on my mission. That set the dog off. It barked much louder than before. This one was a deafening and panicked bellow. Once it barked 3 times, the dog bit Naruto's hand gently enough to not break the skin, but hard enough that Nar couldn't get out. Nar attempted to pull out of the dog's viscel-like grip, ignoring the creature's growls of protest. Nar found a large paw on his chest as he was forced back onto the bed. Let me go, you crazy dog. The door slammed open and a tall, well-built man walked in. His dark brown hair with a few strands of gray was licked back on the top before it exploded into a wild ponytail. The white shirt he wore was neat and spotless, and the sleeves were rolled up to the elbow. His apron, however, was stained from years of heavy use. His strong and stern face shifted tones dramatically when he saw Naruto's position. Loki. No. Down. Girl. Down. The man picked up the dog with some mild strain and continued to hold on to it even after Loki had let go of Naruto's hand. Loki had an undignified look on her face as she looked at the man. Don't look at me in that tone of voice with a pat on the head that forced Loki's snout down for a second. The man stood. Sorry about that, kid. I'm Wasumaru. Naruto looked at the old man. He felt like he had seen him somewhere before. He seemed so familiar, but for the life of him, Naruto couldn't figure out where he'd seen him. I'm Nar. Where am I? Wasumaru smiled. You're in my inn. I tended your wounds as best I could when Loki pulled you out of the river. You slept for like a whole day, too. Wasumaru's pleasant smile slowly died down as realization dawned on him. Wait, you were drowning. You have water in your lungs. Shock spread across Naruto's face. He had never drowned before. Is that bad? What do? We have to get it out or else you die if you swallow any more water. Wasumaru panicked and leapt towards Nar. I'll hold you upside down to get the water out. You do your best to cough it up. Nar found his face being held about a foot away from the ground with Wasumaru's hands around his ankles. How do we know if it's working? Naruto questioned as he tried to cough up water. Wasumaru's response was to shake Naruto as he held him. I don't know when water comes out of your mouth. Loki whined at the display and quickly decided that these two were complete idiots. She tried to bark that they were doing more harm than good, but she could only watch as the ninja boy was shaken until he puked, which thankfully was a clear bile that the two assumed was water from Naruto's lungs. Rum-roast Naruto stood, the bitter taste of his own bile still in his mouth burning slightly, and his stomach was empty to the point where it hurt. Perhaps he should have tried harder to eat. The Night Ka yelled at him. Thanks, old man. How long have I been here anyways? Wasumaru's face twisted into a sour pout that made him appear like a child who had just been told to eat his vegetables. I'm not that old. He paused for a moment before his face adorned an embarrassed look. At least I don't think I am. You've been here for about a day. Loki found you in the river early yesterday morning. You're lucky. She has a tendency to pull random people out of the river. But hey, you have your memories, right? Nar froze. He had been out of it for a whole day and then some. What happened to the others? Were they okay? That storm was really bad and freaky. He hoped everybody made it to the capital. Okay, I need to find my team. Which way is the capital? Whoa, now, I think you should rest a little bit before you head off. Most people would jump for a free stay at my inn. Wasumaru placed a firm hand on Naruto's shoulder. But I have to go find them. They might be in danger, and I don't want to fail my mission. Naruto's protests ended in a long, hungry grumble from his stomach. Wasumaru ran his hand through his hair and let out a deep sigh. The kid had guts and stubbornness problems. Look, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you how to get to the capital if you let me feed you. Naruto's instincts told him to not refuse a free meal, and his stomach grumbled again at the mention of food. His head felt light and his limbs felt heavy. It was not an unfamiliar feeling to Nar. He'd been hungry before, and he hated it. Fine, but make it quick, please. With a smile, Wasumaru spun on his heels to head out the door. Excellent. I'll see you downstairs. You're lucky you get to have my beef stew fresh. He paused at the door and turned towards Loki. And you, Missy, leave Nar alone, out with ya. Roar Realm Ra. Loki barked out and took several prideful steps out of the room in anger. And sorry about Loki. She's smarter than any other dog I've met, but she can be a bit temperamental. He waited for Loki to be mostly out of earshot before he said that, of course. Nar could only laugh. He'd spent a lot of time around really smart dogs. Kurumaru alone was probably smarter than he was. The dog had offered to give him and Ka history lessons last week. That's nothing. You should see some of the dogs in Konoha. Kurumaru knows more about history than I do. And he can talk. Really? Wasumaru asked excitedly. You mean you ninjas have dogs that can talk? Nar nodded happily. So far, it was only Kuromaru that could speak so that everybody understood them. But the Inuzuka all swore that they could understand their dogs just fine. Naruto had a shaky understanding of what Akamaru said. Might have to visit Konoha to see what that crazy dog of mine is actually saying, Wasumaru said as the door clicked behind him. For X. When Naruto arrived downstairs, he was greeted by a pleasant yet familiar smell. Maybe it was just the smell of beef stew, but Wasumaru smelt nearly identical to Sum's beef stew. It was just missing something. It still made his stomach gurgle with excitement. The downstairs was a pleasant open room filled with many low tables and booze. The highest seats were at the bar, which separated Wasumaru from the rest of the area. Overall, the area felt open and homey. Wasumaru either didn't notice Naruto come down or was too preoccupied with the stew to care. He had a small bowl in his hands that dripped with broth. Still missing something. Wow, Nar said as he sat down at the bar. It only smelled slightly of alcohol. That smells great. Startled by Naruto's loud and brash voice, Wasumaru nearly dropped the bowl back into the stew. Thanks, kid. I've been trying to get it to taste just right for about 8 years now, but I still can't seem to get it right. Nar snorted. You've been working on it for 8 years. It sounded like he should have been able to make the best stew ever. Yay, Wasumaru admitted. It's kind of the only thing I remember after Loki pulled me. The taste that is. I think it was the last thing I ate before I lost my memories. Nar frowned and took a seat at the counter. You lost all of your memories. Wasumaru nodded and set a large bowl of stew in front of Nar. Yeah, it was Loki that pulled me out of the river like she did you. I tried to find out if she belonged to anybody in the village, but none of them had ever seen her before. I kind of thought that if I could get this stew just right, I'd be able to get my memory back. Somehow, it kind of evolved into me having this in, and Loki has been with me the entire time. Wasumaru gave a heavy sigh before he broke out into a large smile. But enough about me. Tell me about yourself, Nar. Nar smiled before he took a bite of the stew. Well, my name's Naruto Uzumaki, and I'm going to be Hokage one day. Wasumaru laughed and grew a mischievous smile. Well, Mr. Hokage to be. Do you have a girlfriend back home? Naruto's face went red, and the first bite of stew entered his mouth. It tasted almost like some stew. He was reminded of Ka, and he felt her words once again. He had planned to ask her out for real after they completed missions again or after their Sunday training. He really liked her and he felt like she kind of maybe liked him. But what she had said, hey, don't look so down. Wasumaru snapped his fingers in front of Naruto's face. You have the look of girl problems. Tell me about them. Nar took another bite of the stew inside. So, there's this girl I like. Everything was going awesome with her. We went on missions on Saturday and then I'd go eat dinner with her family and we'd train together on Sunday. It was really fun. I wanted to ask her out soon. Nar trailed off. KBA's words echoed in his mind once more. I'm sensing a but there, Nar, Wasumaru said with a small smile on his face. What happened? Nar poked at the stew twice before he took a bite and began again. Everything was fine, but during this mission, she shouted to her friend about how she doesn't like me and could never like me. Ka could call him an idiot all she liked, but it had actually hurt that time. Wasumaru hummed at that. Listen kid, does she act differently when you two are alone? Nar furrowed his brow in frustration. He was pretty much only alone with Ka and Akamaru except when they all ate dinner. Ka was still Ka even when her family was there. The only time they were with somebody else was during this mission. Nar could only shrug. I don't know. I guess. Wasumaru smiled. Look, next time you see her, get her alone and talk to her about it. I bet you she'll apologize real quick, probably before you even say anything. The idea was a pleasant one. The thought that Ka didn't actually mean what she had said was kind of bittersweet to Nar. Okay, I'll talk to when I see her again. Atta boy. Now, eat up. I need to kick you out before the regulars question why there's a minor sitting at the bar. Wasumaru ruffled Naruto's hair in much the same way he would a dog's. Nar could only grunt at the gesture, but it felt kind of nice. He finished the stew quickly. He needed to get to the capital quickly to try and find his teammates. Hey, old man, you should come visit Konoha sometime. Maybe you'll find somebody, you know. Wasumaru shrugged and turned his attention to his cooking once more. I'll think about it. I went to the capital with the same hope, but didn't have any luck. I even had Loki with me, but she didn't find anyone. No, the old lady. I mean, the Hokagesunade is a really good healer. I bet if you come to Konoha, I can get her to restore your memories. Naruto tried to explain as he finished up his meal. Wasumaru sighed again. It's been 8 years. What if I'm a different person now? What if my family doesn't want me anymore? That got Naruto's blood boiling. If his parents were to suddenly show up to his door and say that they just regained their memories, it would be one of the happiest days of his life. He had spent years dreaming about who his parents were and why they weren't with him. He didn't want to think that it wasn't because they didn't love him. No, family loves each other no matter what. I know that they probably still miss you even if you don't know who they are. Wasumaru could only give a small sad laugh to Nar. Fine, I'll tell you what. Next time the slow season starts, I'll come to Konoha and you talk your Hokage friend into taking a look at my brain. Naruto cheered and jumped out of his seat. Alright, if you don't show up, I'll come drag you there myself. Loki came scrambling around the corner. Her tail was going so fast it was more a blur. Despite her age, the dog looked as excited as a puppy. She barked and yipped happily with Nar. It was about noon when Naruto said his final goodbyes to Wasumaru and Loki. The capital was north and about a full day's journey away. The village Nar found himself in was a small port town much like the one where Suna lived. As he left, Nar turned to remember the name of Wasumaru's inn. Red Lady's Rest. There was a large red dog on the sign as well that sat staring out towards the ocean. 4x 2 hours in his journey towards the capital. Naruto had to stop his sprint. he heard the familiar high-pitched puppy bark of Akamaru. There, standing near the side of the road was Ka. She looked ragged. Her jacket was missing a sleeve. She had dirt on her face and deep bags under her slightly red eyes. Various twigs and leaves were stuck in her hair. Nar? Ka questioned slowly. She wiped her eyes and took in a deep breath with her nose. She checked if it was Nar by both sight and smell. It was him. Nar. Nar could not help but smile at Ka as she charged towards him. It looked like she had been looking for him for the last couple days. She looked exhausted and it made him happy. Ka cared for him. Hey, Ka. Ka leapt at Nar with her arms wide open and pulled him into a tight, firm hug. I looked everywhere for you. I'm so happy you're okay. Nar patted Ka's back was crying. Of course, I'm okay. I'm Nar Uzumaki. I can't die until I become Hokage. That earned him a small sobbing chuckle from Ka. Ka tried to bury her face further into Naruto's jacket. She had missed his smell. She had tried to find it after the fight, but the rain and the smell of lightning had removed any scent of Nar. She had to find him. He needed to know she was sorry about what I said. She mumbled into his jacket. She felt Nar tense under her still tight hug. There was no way she was going to let him go until she explained herself. She had problems just in explaining it to herself, but she had to try. I'm sorry I said all those things. I don't think you're a loser. I don't think you're a monster. I don't think you're ugly. I don't think you're weak. I think you're really cool, okay, and an awesome shinobi. And I think that you're going to be my greatest rival for being Hokage. And that you're kind of cute, okay. Naruto didn't know what to think, but he found himself wrapping his arms around Ka as he returned her hug. He was smiling, though. Wasumaru was right, and Ka did care for him. Akamaru, not wanting to be left out, stood on his hind legs and placed his front paws on Ka and Naruto's legs. I just hate it, Ka shouted as she began again. I hate that, I hate that, I like that, I like you. It's so annoying, but I like you. Okay, I know I'm just not good at being a girl. Okay. Nar gripped KBA's shoulders tightly and tried to pull her off his jacket. Ka liked him and he wanted to see her face. He wanted to look her in the eyes when they said it this time. She resisted and tried desperately to keep her head buried in his shoulder. But slowly Naruto was able to separate them. Ka, you talk too much. Naruto smiled. Ka sniffed and tried to wipe her nose. You dummy. That's not what you should say when somebody I like you too. Nar cut her off. He watched as her eyes went wide at his words as her smile hiccuped into existence. It was probably the lack of sleep, but Ka could not contain herself. She blubbered for a second, failing to make any real words before she gave up entirely and threw herself at Naruto once more. You stupid, 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 stupid idiot dummy face head. Don't ever leave me like that again. Okay. A sense of bliss filled Nar. It was similar to when Iruka said he was proud of him, only different. A girl liked him. Eager anticipation filled Nar at what that could mean. Would Ka become his girlfriend? His hands started to talk before his mouth did, and his mouth started to move before his mind could think. Do you want to go on a date while we wait for Sasaki and Hinata's mission? That brought Ka back to reality. Oh, right, she snapped out of Naruto's hug. The mission. Okay, listen, so, that thunderstorm and the boulder were caused by people trying to kill Princess Yona. We beat them back, but Hawk thinks that they were hired by the Do's newest wife so that her daughter would be next in line for the seat, but we don't have any evidence. So, Hawk asked that I attend the party tomorrow with them to make sure Yona is safe. Nar blinked twice in an attempt to process the information. Do you want to go to the party with me? Then, Ka's face turned sour. You idiot, we're on a mission. Her face heated up as well. We can go on a date when we get back to Konoha. Okay. Nar nodded happily. He hated a date. A really real date with a really real girl that really liked him. That just left one question. Does that mean you're my girlfriend? All of Ka's available brain power was diverted to stammering and turning her face as red as a strawberry. You dunce asked me that after the date. She shouted loudly and turned away from Nar with a huff. Hee okay then Nar said cheerfully. We should go find the others though before it gets too late. She slowly turned back towards him. Her hand was cold and Naruto's looked so warm and inviting. Without warning, Ka grabbed Naruto's left hand and entangled their fingers. But maybe they decided to walk the rest of the way to the capital, holding hands along the way. They talked as they always did. Ka told Nar about how she went wild on the ninja that had caused the lightning, how strong Hawk was, and how brave Yona was during the fight. Slowly, the distance between them vanished, and Nar found Ka's head resting on his shoulder as they walked. A sudden breeze wafted towards the two that caused Ka to shiver. Goosebumps already appeared on her arms. Her teeth were close to clattering. She bit onto her tongue. She went rigid, refusing to show any weakness to Nar, refusing to let it slip that she was freezing. Are you cold? Nar asked out of the blue. With that small warning, he pushed her off his shoulder and released her hand for a moment. Ka missed his warm hand. It was so warm, but she would not beg for it. Ka turned her head sharply away from Nar. P.F. Number. What would give you an idea like that? Your hand is cold. Nar presented his jacket to Ka with a giant smile. This was something that boyfriends did for their girlfriends, right? He saw it in a movie he sneaked into once. It was a boring romance movie, but he went through the trouble to sneak into it, so he watched the whole thing. Besides, he wasn't that cold. Ka looked at the jacket that she repaired with a mild look of disgust. Why did it feel like if she put that jacket on, she was submitting to something? It was probably the orange color that made it look so warm. It would smell so much like Naruto, too. The great big grin Nar gave her is what forced her surrender. Fine, she growled out, but only because my arm is cold. The sleeves were at the annoying length where they were tight on her arms. The whole jacket was almost small enough to be uncomfortable, but it was just big enough not to be. It smelled like Nar, and most importantly, it was warm like Nar. It reminded her of when she took a nap in the kennel. Safe, warm, and slightly smelly. Without thinking, Ka entwined her fingers with Naruto's, and with a long wide yawn rested her head on his shoulder once more. It would be more comfortable if he was taller. When the sun began to sit, Naruto found himself walking towards the capital with Ka sleeping on his back. Ka smiled into his neck as she drifted off into sleep, completely swallowed in his scent. It smelt like Nar. There was dirt, there was sweat, there was determination, cheap deodorant and cheap shampoo. And there was that strong scent of an alpha and a familiar scent that reminded her of family. The subtle smell of something familiar, something that she had not smelled in a long time. So guys, what do you think about this Naruto story? Tell me your opinion in the comments. And if you want more Naruto What If stories, make sure to subscribe to Universe of Naruto. Thanks for watching.